lecture on before we get. Do any of you guys go back and look at it just in case we miss anything? I know the second day is a little bit more crucial because we talked about the spreadsheets. So they're there for you guys just in case we miss anything. Okay. So any thoughts about the homework assignment yesterday to read over that article? I know I got Mercedes, I got yours, Mercedes, Daniels, James, Miss Hannah's. Who else did I get?
Mine.
Yours, you got it? Okay. Anyone else? Any thoughts on the article from yesterday?
I got a couple thoughts. I think it was optimistic and hopeful, to say the least, and I agree with some of it. But and I think I said this in my my homework, like that, like the cleaning, like getting plates that are easily visible to clean and stuff like that, definitely is something that we need to work on as a society. But in regards of eliminating all plush, things like that, like, I mean, most pillows are disease central. Like, hotels would have to eliminate those every single time a guest comes in. Like, think of the cost in that sense. And then, I mean, I know for me personally, my son has a lot of stuffed animals and stuff like that, right? So if I eliminated all those, there'd be an extra pandemic on my hands, like, kid would go crazy. So, as I said, some of these things are doable for us as a society, but other things would cost way too much to do every single time, and that's what washing machines and bleach are for, like, bleach kills everything. Like, if you want to do that way with hotels and stuff like that, definitely I'm sure they do wash everything with bleach, but like, use bleach. Don't just eliminate everything. You'll have way too much cost on your hand,
Another thing that I noticed, is I kind of agree with James on this, but at the same time, there has been recent documentaries about, how people are clean freaks or germ freaks, and they constantly have their house clean with bleach or all these different cleaning solutions, and keeping it completely clean the whole time, and they're always in a clean environment. And when they step outside, then automatically it's weak. They don't have anything that's challenged their immune system, and so when they step outside, it affects their immune system, and they are more likely to get sick than they are not to get sick. So in my opinion, you're risking an opportunity. Like, even if you did do all this, you're not challenging your immune system, and you're causing maybe even a worse pandemic, basically.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. As far as it relates to the food industry, I think a lot of what she said is very idealistic. It's not practical. And some of the things I just really seem unfounded, like MCT oil, and I don't know if a lot of people know what that is, but having something like that in your meal, if you're not living a keto lifestyle, just causes unnecessary weight gain. So yes, it may be a healthy triglyceride, but you have to be eliminating a particular food source in order for that to be beneficial to you. And as far as cooking foods with immune boosters, which one of the best ones that I use particularly every season, my daughter and I will drink ginger root and turmeric root. And cooking with a lot of those stuff is very pungent. And when I go to a restaurant and I sit down and I want to have my food, I'm there for the experience. So I'm not necessarily wanting to have those smells, be the first thing. Anything that I'm eating, I want it to not just look appealing, but to be decadent and, somewhat nutritious, because most people don't just go out for, the food. They're there for the experience. And you know, sometimes stuff like that can really take away from it. And it shouldn't be the hospitality industry's responsibility to make people healthy. Because if I'm serving you a healthy dish and you leave my restaurant and you go do 100 lines of Coke, then, you know, what's the point? Because me feeding you one dish one day in a month is not going to have that much an effect on your lifestyle if you aren't living a healthy lifestyle yourself. So, I mean, I see what she's trying to do. It's a forum to get us thinking about ways that we can change things, but it's not necessarily practical.
You say if he do coke, right?
Yeah, I mean, people do recreational drugs, people smoke, they take pills.
Hold on,
So,
I got something for that. You said since they do drugs, right? All right, let me break it down. If I open up a restaurant and I'm serving this delicious food, it's healthy too, and people come in either high, drunk, or off any other herb, they're gonna eat more. So there's more money to you. So as a business owner, you really wouldn't care until they start getting disrespectful.
no, but that's the point. She's saying that it is our responsibility to provide that healthy, because if someone isn't taking care of themselves, if you're out here popping 12 mollies and coming to the restaurant, yes, my pockets are going to benefit, but I'm not helping you in the long run because the drugs that you're doing is already killing you.
Yeah, you're not helping yourself.
I agree a little bit with Mercedes here, because that's just like with the portion size. They said that they want to enlarge the portion size, and I was like, how are you going to enlarge the portion size when America is #1 in obesity because of our eating habits and the size of our plates? Like every time I go out to eat, I have to already split my plate in half and make sure that and it winds up being 2 meals for me, so I can keep on the calorie count, so that way I don't wind up eating more than I'm burning. And yet they want to make more portion size for the price cost, which I was like, that's insane, because here we are, #1 in obesity, and yet they want to increase more food size.
I agree with Danny.
Mercedes, I wonder now, yeah, I mean, somebody could, be doing things that are bad for their body and then eating my healthy food and what good's that going to do them, but I think that's up to them. I mean, if you want to benefit from good foods that are good for your body and good for your immune system and stuff, I think you can do that if a restaurant offers those kinds of things. And I don't think it's wrong for a restaurant to offer, or a hotel to offer, those kinds of things that can boost immunity and all that. Some people might just be trying to do that by their regular ways that they eat daily. They're probably doing it when they're at home and be away from the home. They're probably happy to have something that fits into that as well. And I think that skillful chefs know that there's a lot of great things, like for instance, the phytonutrients that are in dark green leafy vegetables. I don't have to make it taste terrible or make it taste like way too much turmeric to give somebody something that can boost their immune system if they make it part of their regular eating plan. I mean, all bets are off if they're going out and doing lines of cocaine or smoking until they can't see or drinking too much alcohol. That's not my problem as an operator. That's their problem. And it'll come home to roost on them. And Daniel, for your perspective there, I think that she's right. I think you're right about that question you have about why would we want to increase those portions so much. I mean, there's a lot of restaurant meals that are too big, and little by little, restaurant cooks and chefs have gotten smarter about that over the years. I'm thinking, based upon what you pointed out in her article, she's not a chef. If she wants to increase the size of restaurant portions, she's not a chef. A chef would know that if I make that portion too big, it's going to cut my sales dollars in half next week because on that couple, because they're going to come back in and they're going to split one, which is what you just told us. So I think if she was a chef, she would not be saying that. She doesn't have to, be a chef, but I'm just saying I don't think a chef would make the decisions she's suggesting. That's all I'll say for a while. I want somebody else to talk. I'm loving this already. What's up, Cameron?
I said, don't you have to think about the waste too, the food waste?
The cost and the waste. If if she's serving really big portions and too much of it's going in the trash, she's talking about social responsibility. Is it socially responsible to serve food with such a large portion that 40% is going to go in the trash, even if it's delicious? You have a good point.
So,
Yeah, going off of what Chef Gary said, there's one thing here that says she wants to replace self-service breakfast with menu ordering, and I don't agree with that. And because my hotel that I work at, we have 1,000 rooms, and we have events that'll book the entire hotel. There's no way we can take 1,000 orders every morning. We need the buffet. Like,
You need buffets. You need buffets in hotels, don't you, Chef Miguel?
yes, and the whole point of this is for you guys to take a look at it, owners and operators of your establishment. Think about the cost, the labor, and right now we're on the cusp of going into a new direction. I'm not saying, you know, this is going to apply to every single outlet, every single restaurant and hotel, but this is a marketing ploy to get on the bandwagon and use it to your advantage. Offer some of these items on your menu, because this is what some of the people are going to be looking forward to. Just like this pandemic, with the toilet paper and sanitizer and hand soap, everybody went on a ravaged it. Now, when we go back to business, hopefully regular business, new rules and regulations are going to start happening. If you guys take a look at number 5 and 6 below food and beverage, it also deals with the sanitation and raceling. You're right about the buffet. You can't take those away because you're serving a lot of people. Now, if you want to go out and order the food in the kitchen, you're going to crash and burn. But there will definitely be new regulations of how that buffet is being served. We have some sneeze guards, but on places that have mobile buffets, you know, big hotels, you have the shapers, so they have the little top that goes up and down. Now, all those places are going to have to adjust and offer some kind of protection from the customers walking through and grabbing the food, because they want to sneeze and the lid be open and then all the germs go into that one dish. Same thing with the back of the house and servers. There's a lot of new rules coming up of how even the health department is going to have to modify their inspections, make sure that A, everybody's washing their hands, B, maybe they're wearing their face masks, C, they're wearing gloves, and change them quite often. Now, when they walk into the establishment,
social distancing too, right?
Yeah,
I mean, if the health department's going to come in there now and have somebody, one of the things they're going to look at is, are you enforcing the 6-foot distance? So I'm going to HEB a couple of days ago, and I get there not very far after they open, and I started walking up the door, and I realized the line is like a block long, way down past the end of the shopping center and around the corner. And I walk over there. It takes you about 30 minutes to get in the front door. We're all 6 feet apart. So you take that, you hook that up with Raceland's comment that they got 1,000 people in the hotel. What are you going to set up 4 little buffets, 250 people each, and put them 6 feet apart and tie up 4 banquet rooms? And I mean, you know, hotel logistics, you know, some of you have been there. Chef, you've been there. Mm-hmm. It's going to be a very different world. And I'm thinking the only thing really is we probably just have to keep the business activity so low and keep our whole social distancing thing in place for a long time until the thing really is passed.
And think about the video from the homework last night, the McDonaldization. One of the things it talks about is its volume, how to get them in, right? How to pack them, how to turn them over. All that is going to change. Every single aspect is going to change, because you're not going to be able to walk into a restaurant and be in line for behind 20 people and 20 people be in front of you. You're going to have the social distancing, and they're going to probably slow it down. Even now, when you go to the grocery store, they do have a guidance line outside that you cannot. Go ahead.
No, go ahead and finish up.
Because you cannot just walk into the store. One walks out, one walks in to apply the social distancing. So it's a lot of rules and regulations. Like this, we're not in the cusp that we're gonna have to adjust. Everything that we knew in the past is going to change. So we need to evolve and adapt with the changes that are coming in.
And that is where that's wishful thinking. And I say that because I know what people have habits, and bad habits are hard to break. So
yeah, they are.
Even though This is a lesson for us all. I
Uh-huh.
really feel that the moment that we are able to get back outside, everything is going to go right back to the way it was. There
Mhm.
are going to be people who are going to try to take precautions, but then there are going to be those of us, I'm probably going to be one of those violators because I enjoy human interaction. I'm not going to want to stay 6 feet away from my friends because, like the McDonaldization says, that's dehumanizing. What
Uh-huh.
is the point of human interaction if I have to stand 6 feet away from you? Like, it doesn't make me feel like, that's something that I want to be a part of. Although I know, yes, it's for safety concerns and
Mhm.
there are people who aren't clean, but I feel like it's gonna take a learning curve. And
Hey.
I want to say that things are probably gonna change, but I think as soon as the outside opens back up, you're gonna see that very little has changed because people are who they are, and
Outside closed?
outside
No.
is closed, Cameron.
Yes, Ms. Aubrey.
James has been having his hand up a while. James,
Yeah.
So I just had one point, and I was hoping somebody could explain it to me. In one of her points that she makes, she says that she wants us to take a look at the current air systems. How clean and how pure is it? Like, how is that going to be practical, and how can you do that on a large scale when every state has a different air quality? And what's going to be your baseline if every state is different? I was hoping somebody could explain that one to me. That was one of the things I didn't understand.
Let Ms. Aubrey go next. Go ahead, Ms. Aubrey.
Okay. I totally forgot what you said earlier, but I know it was something that had to do with the COVID-19. I work in a store, so they had I guess they put out a new city ordinance where you can't go into public places without some sort of face mask. I went to work this morning and we had customers like throw fits over it. Like they still went.
That was in Travis County. It's not in Williamson County yet.
Mm-mm.
Some companies already have that set into action where you have to absolutely have a face mask or you are not allowed in the store. But the thing that got me was that it's like for anybody over the age of 10 has to wear a face mask. And I'm thinking, like, how does that make sense? The children are the ones that touch the most things. They spread germs the fastest. They should be the ones wearing their face mask too, not just adults or adolescents, whatever. But yeah, that's what I was going to say.
That
some
makes-
stores are enforcing one person from a family. They see two people at a cart together. They assume that one's a spouse or a tag along, a friend, a sister or something. And they go down the line and they say, we'd really rather only one person per family come in. The other person could wait, join them when they come back out. And that's a good point. And your point, Aubrey, about little kids, oh man, little kids are like monsters and bringers of death on that kind of stuff. That's just how we are when we're little, right? And yet you got people that can't leave the kid at home to get to the store. So it's a tough one. I don't know how we're going to answer all that. Danny, you got your hand up.
Yes, Chef. I was about to say that what you were saying is like most companies here in Austin are literally telling people don't bring any kids in, only one person and stuff like that. And it's gotten really ridiculous, but I get the protocol.
It's not actually ridiculous if y'all think about it. Like, for instance, older people with weaker immune system, people like myself with diseases, we get weaker immune system, and kids, like, that's why kids can't go everywhere. But then again, kids are nasty. They pick things up off the ground and put them in their mouth. Nasty. And they can spread it easily going home. Just doing the simplest thing, giving your mom a hug. Like, when my mom was in the hospital, if you walk in the hospital, no matter what you do, she said they asked, you go in a section and they test you for coronavirus. But she went in, she said, she asked them, she's having shortness of breath, and that's one of the coronavirus symptoms, and they instantly took her into isolation. She said they treated horrible. When they stick the needle up your nose, oh man, she said that's crazy. And they do kids the same way.
Well, Kim, what I was gonna say is I get that. Like, I understand that there are certain things, but you know what? The one thing that's really making this worse than what it is the media and the social media. Because yesterday I was watching the news, and the news said that they were talking about expanding that 6 feet to like 16 feet. And it was because if there was a person on this side of an aisle and this person on this side of the aisle and he coughed, it went up in the air and over to the other side. And what the news stands for, it's an abbreviation. News means new, entertainment, sports, and weather. I mean, weather and sports. And so it's an abbreviation, and they get paid a paycheck just like anybody else. And so they're going to try to go to the extreme on a lot of things, in which I get that it's okay that you have to take some precaution, but don't make it too extreme, because if you go too extreme on this, then everybody's going to start being that crazy.
Let James go, because we got to bring it back to the topics of owning a restaurant. Go ahead.
Just real quick. So I'm not a single parent, but to what Cam said, not to bring. He thinks it makes sense to bring all of your kids, or don't bring your kids in. So you're saying I should pay a babysitter just to go to the store?
I'm not saying that. I'm saying it's a problem that is going to have to get dealt with somehow, and it's one of the great challenges we have as we go through our recovery out of this situation. I don't have a good answer about the kids.
It's inevitable at this point.
Bring them in.
So in the overall view aspect of this, keeping politics away and all this mess out of the way, as a restaurant owner and as an operator, how are you going to adapt to the new changes coming up? How are you going to have your establishment, the new guidelines, new rules about if you're sick, don't even come to work, stay home. When you come in, first things first, wash your hands. Just like when we go back to the kitchens, what are going to be the new guidelines when you go back into the ground classes? First things first, okay? Wash your hands, come in, use sanitizer, make sure your table is sanitized, make sure you sit down and you start coughing out the door, or you sneeze, hey, on your elbow, okay? We go in the kitchens, first things first, one more time, wash your hands, put a uniform, and be protective as much as you can. So in the industry, real world, again, the tables are going to be separated, and people are going to lose a lot of money because they're not going to be able to pack them as they had before. Now, you are going to have those rogue ones that are going to go back to what they were used to do beforehand, but in all essence, the public is going to be more aware of their surroundings. You guys should be more aware of your surroundings, of watching how many times your server is either he or she is washing their hands, touching their face, bringing your food, how they're handling the glasses. You guys should be more on the alert to protect yourselves. And on that note, you as an owner need to train your staff properly and drill those guidelines and systems so you can protect your staff, yourself, and also the public. Otherwise, if you have something that's coming out of your restaurant, they might sue you. You might get filed a lawsuit against you, or might close down and lose out of business. So you got to be really careful. As far as the hotel industry, that's another segment of the topic, because when you set a hotel, you got to make sure that the room is clean, they clean it properly, and working in housekeeping. You talk about bleach in large hotels. They use chemicals that are designated to be working and matching with those huge washing machines that housekeeping uses through Ecolab or Steritech. So they're designed to handle those loads and clean them and wash them as you can. But yet a lot of these little Motel 6 and roadside hotels, they don't use those big laundry chemicals that Ecolab has for them. So you got to be careful when you stay, when you travel, say one of those things. Don't get attacked by bed bugs. And anyways, it's a different story. But
sorry to interrupt, Chef. Some of those hotels also famously say they're doing all that stuff, and the pillow didn't really go down to the laundry.
Nope.
The blanket didn't really go to the laundry.
I've been a victim.
They'll pick up a towel off the counter. If it doesn't feel wet, they fold it up. Looks good. And it's because they're under tremendous labor dollar pressure. Shaheem, you said you've been a victim on that?
Yes, I have. It's disgusting. Bed bugs. I've had to bomb a room before, and I had to shake this little thing up and basically sit bed bug stuff in there, and people were still complaining about bed bugs. It's disgusting.
It goes back.
I actually stayed at the hotel before and got attacked by bed bugs, and I was like, yeah.
And it's all due to cost control. Just like in the kitchen, just like you're trying to cut back in your labor costs and stewardess and cooks, big hotels got to cut back in the labor from a housekeeping. Now, I work in the hotels. There used to be a floor of 13 rooms or 60 rooms, 2 attendants per. They had to clean X amount of rooms per hour, so they can go back and down. And because of the cuts, they got to cut down. Now, that's why a lot of rooms get missed, because cost controls. Think about it in the whole spectrum. Cost controls, generating profit. That's where all comes down from. Not because they're lazy, they don't clean rooms, because they're under the gun to produce. A lot of
those are not lazy.
Yeah, same thing with the dishwasher. So it's a great topic. I mean, it is a lot for debate, and it goes a lot into it. Just be aware next time when we go back to normal, when you go walk into a restaurant, what are they doing? Are they keeping your food safe? Are they serving you with clean hands, gloves, face masks? What about the general public that's around you? Are they coughing? Are they sneezing? You are going to be more on the alert than anything else. When you go back into the classrooms, you're definitely going to be on your classmates. Hey, wash your hands. Hey, wash your hands, because I know not everybody wash their hands, but guess what now? Everyone's got to religiously wash their hands, okay? And I go back to the story, before all this happened, when I was working at the hospital, I used to have the timer in the kitchen every 2 hours. The timer went off. Everybody drop what they're doing, wash their hands, and turn over the new sanitation bucket, because nobody washed their hands. So when we go back in the kitchen, I know you guys have 2.5 hours of productivity in the kitchen. We might start asking you guys to change the sanitation bucket every hour, and at least every 30 minutes to everybody stop what they're doing, wash their hands, because we gotta act upon it. And maybe it'll work. I don't know. But again, going into this new phase, it's the unknown, and we just gotta protect ourselves. So
we don't know what that new phase looks like too much yet, do we, Chef? we don't know too much about what it's gonna look like yet, really. We just know it's gonna feel different. Hey, Chef, I want to share one quick thing before we move. I know it's time to move on probably. I want to share one quick thing, and it's a restaurant design thing. Now, I used to teach restaurant design classes, and we would get students to lay out the look and the floor size and the size of the kitchen and all the things in order to plan their dream restaurant. Actually, the class was called Dream Restaurant. That was the name of the class. And we taught many aspects of the restaurant design and all that. And one of the things that I remember really well was that in a ritzy restaurant or a high check average restaurant with more service and fancier waiters and wait stations and stuff, you had about maybe 20 up to 25 square foot of dining room space for every guest you were going to seat, right? So if you're going to seat 100 people, you had 2,500 square feet of dining space, and that's it. I'm sorry, 1,500 square feet of dining room space for a really fancy place, nicely appointed. If you're in a very casual place, order it and come get it when we yell at you. You had 8-9 feet of dining room space for every chair you would have. So in a tiny restaurant, a fast food restaurant where the real estate budget is tighter, they got less money to spend on rent and utilities and so forth, the dining room had to be a lot smaller, fewer square feet per guest, which meant that your guest is much closer together in the fast food place than they are in the ritzy place, the country club or something. Does it make sense? You guys? And if that's so, if you got 8, 9, 10 feet per guest in a fast food restaurant, isn't that a lot higher? Doesn't that carry a lot higher likelihood of passing infections?
Right.
Right?
Right.
It does.
So I gotta say, design thing, fast
So-
food, tight space.
Before we go any further, Ms. Caitlin, what do you think about that article?
I agreed with what Mercedes said about it being kind of impractical. I also noticed at the end, though, that the author was from Amsterdam. So I wondered if that maybe influenced a lot of her thought process and some of the ideas that she had.
Yeah, you got to give those things consideration too, because when they're writing these articles, they're writing from their own personal experience, preferences too. It mostly for the general public, but they also throw in some of that, you know, what they would like to see. So just got to be open-minded about it. But anyway, it's changes coming, and like I said, you got to be safe, keep safe, watch your surroundings, because not everybody's. Again, before we you know, every class I ever had, I always emphasize about washing hands, because not everybody washes their hands. Not everybody coughs inside their elbow. Not everybody sneezes inside their elbows. You're not going to be extra cautious when you go outside. Somebody's coughing, you look at it like, what the fuck, right? We got to make sure they cover themselves, right? All right, let's go to decision making, challenging concepts. Okay, this also falls into the same category. Okay, and delegation. Okay, decision making is a process of making choices by identifying a decision, gathering information, and assessing alternative resolutions. Using a step-by-step decision-making process can help you make more deliberate, thoughtful decisions by organizing relevant information and defining alternatives. This approach increases the chances that you will choose the most satisfying alternative possible. So 7 steps to making decision-making for success. First, identify the problem. 2, gather relevant information. 3, identify alternative solutions. 4, assess the evidence. 5, choose alternatives. Take action and review the decision. And again, this applies to everything, not just, you know, the food industry. Step 1, identify the decision. You'll realize that you need to make a decision. Try to clearly define the nature of the decision you must make. The first step is very important. Define. Okay.
What are we deciding between, huh?
Correct. Okay. Define the issue. Step 2, gather relevant information. Okay. Gather relevant information. Collect some pertinent information before you make your decision. What information is needed? The best sources of information and how to get it. This step involves both internal and external work. Some information is internal. You'll seek it through a process of self-assessment. Other information is external. You'll find it online on books from other people and from other sources too. 3, identify the alternatives. As you collect information, you will probably identify several possible paths of action or alternatives. You can also use your imagination and additional information to construct new alternatives. In this step, you will list all possible and desirable alternatives. Consider your options before committing to any of them. You should make a checklist to compare solutions. Points out of the checklist might include: how well will this solve the problem? Will it also stop similar problems from occurring in the future? How much will it cost? How does it affect other departments? Does it fit in the company philosophy? Is it legal? Is it ethical? Okay. Step 4, weigh the evidence. Drawing information and emotions to imagine what it would be like if you carry out each of the alternatives to the end. Evaluate whether the need identified in step 1 would be met with a resolve through the use of each alternative. As you go through this difficult internal process, you begin to favor certain alternatives, those that seem to have a high potential for reaching your goal. Finally, place alternatives in a priority order based upon your own value system. Step 5, choose among alternatives. Once you have well evidence, you're ready to select the alternative that seems to be best one for you. You may even choose the combination alternatives. Your choice in step 5 may be very likely to be the same or similar to the alternative you place on the top of your list on step 4. 6, take action. You're now ready to take some positive action by beginning to implement alternatives you choose in step 5. 7, review the decision and its consequences. In this final step, consider the resolution of your decision and evaluate whether or not it has resolved the need to identify in step 1. If the decision has not met the identified need, you may want to repeat certain steps of the process to make a new decision. For example, you might want to gather more detailed or somewhat different information or explore different alternatives. So what to do once a decision has been made? Like say fire the guy, right? Fire the pantry, he or she. Once you make your decision, you should act on it first. First, you should figure out who this decision affects and inform them. Generally, employees are okay with changes. Even the major changes dramatically impact their work as long as they are told about them ahead of time. Then implement the decision and oversee its implementation to ensure that it's implemented properly. Watch oversights or unexpected snags. If you're wrong, admit that you're wrong and take steps to reserve your decision. If you're right, stand by your decision. Okay. That falls into the category. Now we talk about probiotics, ginger shots, all this, the article that we're talking about. What if you were working in a hotel and your food and beverage and the GM wanted this to be implemented to your menus? Now you're getting paid to do a certain job, whether we like it or not. You got to include some of this items in the menu. How will you make that decision to roll it out on your staff, and then so they can accept it, roll with it instead of fighting it back? Because remember, we're getting paid to do a job, so you got to roll with the punches. So how will you delegate those items to the staff? So it's a lot of thinking behind it. Okay. Delegation. What happened to the project? I delegated it to you. I delegated it. Right. A lot of times I've asked a lot of students, hey, who's going to do this? And it's like, oh, I am. And then that person delegates to the next one and it goes on the line until somebody else does it. Okay. Deciding when to delegate. It is impossible for a manager to make all the decisions they could make, especially if they want to devote the time to apply to the full decision-making process to each decision. According to Upper Siffold story, Napoleon will wait for 2 weeks before opening his mail. By then, the small problem will have been resolved, and he could focus on attention of the larger ones. While this is impractical for almost any management situation, it carries an important lesson with it. There are problems that are worth devoting your full attention to, and problems that are better delegated to people you trust to be able to handle them. Like when you get a letter in the mail, when you get a bill in the mail, you wait until it expires before you pay it, or you pay it right off the top. Okay. So sometimes you got to act upon it. You can't sweep it under the rug and hope it'll go away. You got to address it as soon as possible. Like when we have issues in the kitchen, somebody gets out of hand. What happens? Out, right? Out, get out. And then we go and talk about what happened and try to get them back in the system. If it doesn't happen, then you really got to step out. Okay. The downside of delegating, things might not be done right or the way you want it to. Can slow things right down. You have given up control, but are still responsible for the outcome. Your own time and efforts might be not be recognized. Left out of the fun, you might have enjoyed more than the other things you have to do. The upside of delegating builds team strength. Your team is not dependent on you. Increases team commitment, new ideas and possibilities of better solutions. Team members have an opportunity to stretch and grow. You're not the only ones staying awake at night thinking about solutions. Okay. Making decisions, managerial problem solving. Much of a manager's time is spent in the decision-making process, up to 75% of the time, according to some sources. For something so important, it is essential to have process making decisions as effectively as possible. 7 strategies for delegating better and getting more done. Okay, getting more done. Now, in the kitchen, when you guys go back, there'll be a lot of delegating within your team members. Not so much with the instructor. The instructor is going to leave it up to you guys who wants to do certain recipes, and you guys got to delegate who's going to attack what on your team before you guys get to the kitchen. Being a good leader involves delegating tasks to employees. This can be difficult to do for many people, but there are tricks to make easier and more effectively. Whether you're a team leader or entrepreneur, or some similar position of authority, delegation is going to be a major key maximizing your productivity and keeping yourself sane during the tight headlines or larger workloads. The problem is many entrepreneurs and leaders don't know how to delegate effectively or aren't willing to do unless they absolutely have to. Okay. How do you guys see yourselves as delegators? I'm gonna pause here for a minute. Go ahead.
Did you call on me?
Yes, Chef Miguel.
Everybody.
As
Oh,
far
okay.
as delegation goes, I've had a lot of experience with the military, of course. And so when it comes to delegation, I feel that I don't overstep like but I also pull, I stick in a realm where I
Not muted.
I hear you.
Can you hear me now?
I can hear you now.
Roger.
Okay. So what I was saying was I had a little experience doing this with the military. And so when it comes to delegation, the thing is like you want to make it where you're not spreading yourself too thin, but at the same time, you want to make sure that you're giving off enough output and information for your other teammates to take care of whatever you need done while you can focus on what you need to get done. And at the same time, you still have to come by every once in a while, like a little check here and there, make sure everything's going. Can't hear me now?
Yeah.
But what I was saying was you distribute the information to them, and you want to make sure that everybody knows their job. And then on top of that, you want to have a job as well that you need to get done. And then on top of that, every once in a while, go and check and make sure to see where they're at or what they're doing. Don't micromanage it, because that's when it gets really annoying, but at least go and check and be within the realm to make sure that they're on the right track and on the right time. Because in kitchen, you have a time when food is ready, it needs to be ready. So you need to make sure that they're keeping up with that. And if there's something, if you finished your job, if there's a way that you can help out in any way.
Yeah. Aubrey started to say something a minute ago too.
Yeah, my boss is pretty much like that too, I guess. You know, I don't work in a restaurant, but it's pretty much the same concept. You know, she does her job, but she makes sure that we're doing our jobs. You know, she helps out too. She's a manager, which basically she wouldn't really have to do anything, but she takes out of all of that to actually go around and do stuff, help out. And as long as we get our job done, she's fine.
Okay.
Yeah, so being there, but not being too close around, right? Maybe not a bad happy medium to strike.
Yes.
Delegate it, make sure they know clearly what's expected. There's a little bit to that. I imagine Chef Miguel's going to come to that a little bit.
Yes, Chef. That's basically what I was trying to get across.
Go ahead. Go ahead, Kristen.
Oh, I was going to say, I was pretty bad about delegating in the Marine Corps. It was something that I didn't like doing all the time because I like working at my pace, and I don't like counting on other people to get stuff done for me, which is sort of what it, to me, boils down to, is you're putting your timeline in someone else's hand when you tell them to do something and you walk outside and make sure it got done, and the guy's standing out there picking his nose like, hey man, I told you to do this half an hour ago. Like they kind of see it as I get to, wander off and go see how long this takes for me to do it. I've never worked in a restaurant, but I mean, in my own personal experience, the whole delegation thing can kind of hurt you if you're not staying on top of your guys, or if you kind of just trust or expect them to do it. I mean, they're human, so that, take advantage of whatever you say, but also it's like nobody has like the sense of urgency that you do, and it's kind of hard to find people that you tell them to do something and they've got a fire lit under them, and they're hurrying to get something done, or they care as much as you do.
Christian, that's a common struggle. A lot of folks, like, I don't want to put my time frame in somebody else's hands. You said that real well. Chef Miguel, have you ever felt that stress of delegating and then thinking, geez, I hope that person gets on it, and then having to go back? I mean, we all know we got to go back and check, but what are you going to see when you do go back and check? Is it happening, or do you have to put a fire under them? This is hard stuff, right? It's a great challenge. there are folks that know how to do it really well and know the nuts and bolts psychologically, and they can tell you step by step all the things you should have put in place when you delegate in order to have the best chance of success.
Right.
Guarantee success, but there's folks that know how to do it better than I do. I like you, Christian. I feel kind of shaky on delegating. I feel your pain. Mercedes, you had a question or comment?
Well, not a question so much, Chef, but I think the most important thing when delegating is to make sure that you pick someone who you know is going to get the job done, because then that is where you know you will be able to trust that although all of us have that control freak that knows that, yes, I want it done my way and it'll get done right if I do it myself. But I think that is the most important aspect, is to know that the person you selected or you delegated the task to is someone who is going to get it done and to the standards that, you know, you hold as high.
Yep.
That's the great trick right there if you can pull it off. Yes. It's a hard one sometimes.
A quick comment off of that is I agree with Mercedes. You got to find the people that want to get in, do the work as fast as you do, but at the same time, to what Christian was saying is, you know, that's the whole point I was saying earlier, is as the head chef or whatever of the kitchen, your job is to once you delegate that, you focus on your stuff, and then you have to occasionally check on them. You know, if you don't check on them, you're never gonna get them to go to the pace that you want them to. I've had multiple soldiers that are, you know, they're 18 years old. They don't want to do anything. They lived in your house and played video games all day long. And I mean, if I can get them to work just as well as anybody else on my team, then I know that I can get anybody to move when I need them to move. All I got to do is be there. And one thing that I've found out as a delegator is if you show them that you're getting down and dirty and working as hard as they are, then they will respect you more, and they will get down and get dirty with you.
Yes.
And that's one thing that I've done my whole military career, and it works out really well.
So keep that in mind. When you guys go back to the kitchen, even with Mercedes, we're talking about delegating, right? In the fried chicken buffet, you guys had a fried chicken buffet too, right? Right, Chef Gary, or you guys fried some chicken?
No, we didn't do a buffet. We just plated it, I'm pretty sure, if I remember right.
So sometimes we switch a little bit here and there. It depends on the instructor, how much product we got. In this case, we made a buffet and we invited all the classes to come in. So the day beforehand, we talked about it when we started getting to the chicken fabrication process. How we're going to break the chicken, what we're going to use it for, so forth, so on. Way ahead of the game. Even since day one, we talked about that day. Several days beforehand, everybody decided who was going to make certain recipe. That they already started delegating, right?
Yes.
Delegating who was going to make it. Now, you talk about Christian, and then you talk about making sure that you pick the strong people, and you don't like to have that trust on certain individuals to proceed and move forward and to complete the project. In this case, every team, the whole class per team, they were doing some projects. Now within each clusters, they had a delegator and an autocratic leader who stepped up and said, "Okay, come on, guys, let's got to do this. We got to move on. We got to print the menus. We got to do the labels. Who's on the chicken?" You guys broke into delegation teams and started pushing the buffet out. As a general, how do you motivate people to keep on moving without stopping? And as you recall, I was always going to the clock, right? Hey guys, it's 7 o'clock. Hey, 7:30. Hey, we got 30 minutes left. Where we at? What we're looking at? So somebody has to step up and keep that time frame going to make sure everybody hears you, that the clock is ticking. The clock can either be your friend or your foe. It all depends how fast and how accurately you produce the recipes and who can you trust to carry that project, because everybody's different and you cannot trust certain individuals to do certain projects. Now in the kitchen, when you have a banquet of 7,000 people or 3,000, whatever the case is, maybe 100, you got maybe 7 to 15 cooks. You're going to assign the ones who are stronger at certain parts, maybe tag team with someone else to the weaker side, to build the confidence and to get more skills to proceed and finish a project so they can get stronger, and you're going to go back and follow through. So we're going to get into the following through a little bit further down the road, how to make sure that what you delegated is getting done and not go back, hey guys, you know, it's this time, it's 8 o'clock, we got to get things done. We got to get it done. We got to steam it. We got to blanch it. We got to cool it. We got to season it. We got to oil. We got to pan it. We got to count it. Make sure we have enough before the banquet event happens, because if once you start rolling, there's no going back. Like I was telling you guys a story about the burnt bacon. Once you're in the middle, you can't go back and then trying to fix that issue. You got to move forward. So you got to do a lot of follow through on day in, day out.
Yep.
I got a lot of experience in the delegating in different fields. When I was doing construction, you know, I always have a meeting every morning, you know, and I always have to go over safety issues. But then, you know, then I'll go over what's the task at hand. I had a group of guys that were really good tying rebar. So I'll get with them, like, hey, this is how much rebar we got. This is what we need to lay out. And then I had another set of guys that just built the forms. So, you know, I had to get them to build the forms first before the guys do the lay out the rebar. So that way I can order the concrete and get it done. And then everyone knew their place, and, you know, we'll knock it out. And then into the restaurant, when I was at the Jalapeno Tree, you know, and they ended up making me a head chef. When I used to do my prep lists, you know, I used to set a time on it. I was like, all right, this is your prep list. You're going to, you know, depending on how big it was, you know, it should take you either 2.5 hours or up to 6 hours. And, you know, and then I highlighted the 911 items that need to be done and be on the line ready by, you know, opening at 11 o'clock. And, you know, I made sure, and before we opened, you know, 30 minutes before we opened, I'll go to each station. I'm like, you have everything you need. You know, you ready to rock and roll, get things done, you know, and then if not, you know, they'll say, oh, I don't have this and this, and I have to go back to my prep team. I'm like, hey guys, you know, got 30 minutes to open. What's the holdup on here? You know, we need to get it going. You know, if there's anything I could do, I could jump in and help you, or, you know, vice versa, get the guys off the line if they're not doing nothing. You know, so I got pretty good experience on that delegating, and it always seemed to work for me, you know, because I set a time frame and I put it, and I have it in writing, you know, prep sheet for veggies, get these veggies cut. It'll take you 2 hours to do it. If it takes you longer, I'm going to have to talk with them, figure out what's taking so long, you know.
Right, and when you're going back to check on the progress of stuff, you know, checking on the progress at 10:57 is not going to do you much good if they forgot it or if they weren't doing anything. If it wasn't happening, you needed to catch that at 10:40 or 10:45 or something. You'd have a little bit of wiggle room to crack that whip a little bit and get things moving. So coming back to check that's a matter for careful thought too. Like you got to set yourself a plan when you're going to come back and check. Like I can't look at it at 10:20 and think everything's okay and have no further look until 11 o'clock, because at 11 o'clock if something's wrong, I have let it become too late. Something's wrong, I got to catch it before 11.
Right.
When there's still some time to dig them out.
I just been very lucky and fortunate to have, you know, every team or group I you know, had to take over, been very good at their jobs. And I mean, I did very minimal micromanaging. I mean, everyone knew what was expected.
Mm-hmm.
And then, you know, it just, everything runs smoothly. I mean, there's a few times where I had someone, you know, I guess they're just having a bad day. So, you know, I'll pair them up with someone else so then they can both combine their work and kind of get it done, you know, and then that way they're not feeling really overwhelmed, but at the same time, you know, they're kind of doing their job.
So I'll share you guys a story with delegating. I was in Branson. We had a banquet of 800 people, right? Sit down for dinner on a Saturday night. And I delegated to my banquet lead. I had a banquet lead to go ahead and stripe. We had the red skin potatoes, and we used to stripe it. So when you stripe it, you take a paring knife and go around them and just leave the ends red, stripe your potatoes. So we had a party of 800, so we had the right amount of potatoes for him to stripe. So I said, okay, here's the potatoes. You know, I gotta do inventory, whatever else what it was doing. And so I left him, I delegated for him to stripe these potatoes. My fault was not going back and double check and follow through, because I went back and I touched bases with my lead banquet cook. I said, where's, have you done the striped potatoes? He said, yes, I haven't. So he pointed at me and I looked at him. In banquets, you live and die by numbers. What should have been done, he should have taken those potatoes, spread them out on the table, counted 2 per person. So he needed about 1,600 potatoes in total. then added a few more extra, maybe another 50 or 60 just in case. Didn't do that. So got the potatoes. He just averaged a bag of how many potatoes were there, how much potatoes we needed, steam them, season them, oil them, whatever. And during the banquet event, guess what? About 60 people, 0 potatoes. We're scrambling, for, trying to steal from the hotline their mashed potatoes and the baked potatoes so we can make the last 60 plates count. And
That's rough. Yeah.
it's rough. So delegating is, again, you got to have the right person to trust. But even if you trust them, you got to go back and follow through to make sure that the job task gets done. Because if you don't, then you're going to be screwed. In this case, counting is very imperative. Take the potatoes out, count 2 per person, 1,600, add a few more extra just in case, stripe them, steam them, cool them down, pan them. And now on the sheet pan, on the speed rack, you count how many potatoes are on the sheet tray, how many you fit this way and that way. Like, you know, when you're doing chicken, you fit about 4 or 5 chickens per row and about 7 on the long sides. That's about 35 chicken breasts. If you got a party of 100, you're gonna figure out how many sheet pans you need. So you take that 35 divided by 100, and that's exactly how many sheet pans you need of chicken all laid out at the same time. Because when you look at it, everyone's supposed to be very uniform, and everybody and all the chickens or potatoes are supposed to be in a row, organized and neatly. So you got to be that person. But again, go back and follow through, because if you don't, you're going to get caught in those instances where you're not going to know what to do, and you got to be afloat and survive and do the best you can. So delegating is not just about delegating; it's going back and following through, make sure that it's done, and you not only get a visual aspect. If you have to go back and count, not because you don't trust that individual, he or she, you got to make sure that you have the right product and the right amount to proceed and execute that banquet event or that dish. Okay, so follow through. Okay,
you're exactly right. I mean, if I had a situation I was worried about that, if I went through like what you went through, the next time I went through the same thing with that cook, I'd be saying, look, you don't count 1 bag of potatoes and then just multiply and figure out how many bags. You count the potatoes, right? You said, okay, how many will fit on a sheet pan? Maybe they figure out that 80 potatoes will fit on 1 sheet pan. Depending upon, maybe they say, okay, looks like we put 80 on each one, then fine. Every sheet pan's got 80 potatoes, and then you can always count and see exactly where your progress is. And at plating time too, you can say, hey, we've got 8 sheet pans of potatoes left. That means we should have only 640 people left to plate, or whatever. You can tell, but because your sheet pans are consistently counted off, you can tell how many plates you have served and how many plates you still got to go. And you can count your plates as well. But it could be a mistake to just tell someone if you're not sure that they're going to be very thorough and count like you want them to. They got to look you in the eye and say, oh yeah, chef, I'm going to count them. And then you say, yeah, you are, right? And then, it makes things rough if you have to go and steal from the line and swipe off another party or give them some potatoes, not what they asked for. That's rough and it's embarrassing, right?
Right. Here's another part delegating. During that event, we had a strong stirring team. And one of my key players who was in charge of always grabbing the plates of the lids, because you can fit about 5 stacked plates with lids on it in the hot box. So 2 rows, 5 in the back, 5 in the front. So it's about 300 or 150, depends on the hot box. And during the process, I was be either in the starch, and I will holler out how many plates in the hot box, and they will tell me how many we got so far. They will give me a number so I can gauge if it was getting close to running out of potatoes or I had enough. So if I see that, because potatoes and I made the same size, all small, big, and so forth, so on. So I might have to use 2 potatoes to make up for the loss of the big one or a regular size one. So in this case, we had delegated a certain stirring guy to go ahead and count the plates, and he would call them out 100, 200, 300 until we were almost done. In this instant, in this case, I was calling out how many in the hot box. Nothing. When you go in the kitchen, the chef calls out whatever command, and you go heard, or you repeat it back. I would hear nothing back, no echo. How many in the hot box? Nothing. 3rd time, 4th time, I was getting frustrated. The 5th time, I'm like, how many in the effing hot box? I raised my head because my head was down. And to my fault, the guy that was in charge of the hot box was deaf. So I busted out laughing too, because I'm like getting frustrated, already mad, and I looked up and it's like, delegating. We delegated to somebody that had not done the job, and it was deaf, so he couldn't hear what I was asking. So, anyways, live and learn, right? Delegating. Okay. All right. Let's proceed forward. Okay. So 7, review decision and its consequences. Final step, consider the result of your decision and evaluate whether or not it has resolved the need to identify. Step 1, if the decision has not met the identified need, you may want to repeat certain steps of the process to make a new decision. For example, you might want to gather more detailed from someone information to explore different alternatives. Now in the kitchen, you might not have this luxury of time and to go and analyze. You gotta be fast on your head. So when you go through every kitchen, you gotta know, you gotta have the knowledge of what makes it tick. From the dishwasher, from the chemicals, to the little beep, beep, beep in the dish machine, to the oven timer, to the smell, all your senses need to be extra alert, because you're gonna have to make the decision on the split second. So you're gonna have to analyze this information right off the top really fast, okay? I guess we went over that already, okay? That too. Decided when to delegate, that one too. Okay, solving, that one too. That was where we stopped. So delegated task is a skill that, like any skill, can be learned and improved on over time. Put this 7 delegation strategies into practice and watch your organization efficiency increases. 1, learn to let go. The biggest problem most new bosses and leaders face is inability to let go of their own work. Mr. Christian, Chef Gary, right? And let go of your own work, okay? Sometimes they feel so dedicated to the completing their own work that they refuse to let other people help. Other times, they fear that nobody else has the skills or abilities necessary to execute the work effectively. Whatever the case may be, your first priority needs to be learn to let go. Start small, delegating only the smallest task, and gradually work your way up. Get to know your team better and improve the trust among you and your coworkers. Take baby steps and know that eventually you will have to let go of your work if you want your team to be successful. So sometimes you got to let it go. You can't be there all the time, because you got to have a life. You got to go home, you know, the wife, the kids, the homies, the home lives, you know, hang out and do whatever you want, you know, outside life. So you got to let go and delegate, because you can't be there 24/7. Establish a firm priority system. As a part of the letting go process, start developing a priority system for tasks. Of course, this system will vary on the basis your expertise, your industry, and the types of tasks you usually handle, but create at least 4 categories according to the degree of effort task requires and the degree of skill. The highest skill category should contain tasks that keep you in your own plate, but those in the lower skill category can be assigned to others. The degree of effort should tell you which tasks are more important to delegate. For example, giving someone else's responsibility for a high effort, low skill task will save you lots of time. Establishing a firm priority system will help you understand the nature of tasks and delegate the effectiveness. So I had a good memory, and I get a little flashback popped in my head, and I started laughing. Anyway, not to sidetrack, when we went outside the last day of the block, when Dre was asking certain individuals to take the picture of the group. Right? No one talking about it. Okay. Anyways, 3, play your workers' strengths. As a leader, you will have to learn something so your teammates. You should know each individual's strengths and weaknesses, including his or her current and potential range of skills. When delegating, take a look at your team and assign tasks to whoever has the greatest number of relevant skills for the task. It seems like an obvious choice, but too many leaders delegate to whoever has the lightest workload or is the most convenient. It's also important to be consistent. For example, delegating the same type of tasks to the same individual will eventually increase the individual's aptitude for those tasks. Sometimes you got to mix it in. You can't always throw everything on one individual. You got to do a mix and match and spread it out, because you got to build your team. Okay. Otherwise, the one team member that you always delegating is going to get tired, is going to get burnt out, is going to fight back, rebel, maybe quit. 4, always include instructions. Okay. Always include instructions. Even if the task process seems obvious to you, make sure to include instructions with each task you delegate. If you have a specific preference or how the assignments will be carried out, include that information. If you have a strict deadline or milestones you need to hit, be clear about it, including details and straightforward instructions from the get-go will avoid most communication gaps and will allow your tasks to be executed effectively. It is a proactive strategy that both you and your employees will appreciate. So, always,
Chef,
yes, go ahead.
Is that where like a really detailed recipe card can come into play? Like with all the procedures, like maybe a picture or two, what it's supposed to look like?
Absolutely, right? You start off as a one-horse cafe. 3 years later, you got twice the seats you had. You don't have one cook anymore. You got 5 cooks. Once in a while, you have to hire someone new. Not having to cook everything means delegating cooking some recipe that takes a little bit of care and thought to somebody that is going to do it for you. Having a recipe is a damn good start, right, Chef?
Right. So I'm going to pop here this spreadsheet, and again, I love spreadsheets, right, guys? Okay. So let's say you're working as a banquet sous chef, okay? And I just give you an example, a banquet of 800, correct? What if your property has multiple events going out at the same time, breakfast, lunch, and dinner? Now, how do you make sure that you delegate a certain system to your banquet sous chef, he or she, that when the certain projects gets done, they are wrapped in a speed rack, tagged, and put in the walk-in cooler. So when the banquet staff comes up with hopefully their instructions of what room, what food to retrieve, or the copy of the BEO, banquet event order, they'll see the tag outside the card, grab that specific card, and roll it out. So we did this sheet for them. It's a banquet prep list. So on the clipboard, on the banquet kitchen, we have 7 clipboards, 1 for each day times 2, the week of and the next week. And we have this production sheet in the front detailing what needed to be done, how much, all handwritten, and a line next to it. So when the banquet sous chef will break down all his or her banquet event orders, and we'll write it down here, and we'll put that sheet in front of all the event orders for the banquet cooks to come and take a look at and start grabbing certain projects, and then we're done, check them off, okay? So that was one item here. On the second tab, I don't know if you guys can see, the second tab, okay, it has another sheet that is supposed to go on the speed rack. This is the BEO number, banquet event order. Is like a receipt or an invoice. The banquet event order, because you got to match that order number that came in that day. What about the group name? Is it La Escoffier Culinary School? How many people? Is it 16 or 30? What room? Are they going to have it in the dentist room? Time of event, it's going to be a breakfast, 9:30. It's going to be a dinner, 6:30 p.m. A date, what date? In this case, you know, the salads, okay? Desserts, how many? Because the banquet event has maybe a banquet of 100, maybe it went up to 105. So you got to make sure that you count how many are in that speed rack. You write them in here and post it on that speed rack, whether they're salads or desserts, okay? Another one, it's a little bit more in tune. This is for the plated event. Again, same concept. If it's for buffet, now a buffet can be for 60 people. You got to have your proteins. You got to make sure they're in there. You got to check them off, and you also I used to use temperatures. You know, what temperature was the beef at? Was it 140? Was it 160? What about the pork? What about the soup? What about any notes that went with it? Any other fruit trays? Same process. And that was just for the breaks. So we were very kind of detailed on how banquet events went. You had to have those systems in place, because if you don't delegate them properly, guess what might happen? Here you are of a property that serves maybe 6 events in one day, maybe 6 for breakfast, 6 for lunch, 6 for dinner. And you got the servers who come in with the banquet event order. They don't have no time. They're under pressure to retrieve that food. They're going to grab whatever speed rack they think is for their event, and they're going to take it.
Mm-hmm.
And now you're in the weeds.
They're going to take food for 200 people when they had a banquet for 100 people, and later you got the 200, and it could be the wrong food, or it could just be half the food it should be. All kinds of terrible things.
Right. Okay.
Good. When I worked at Topgolf, we had I worked in the banquet society as well. We had a similar layout to the one you had, but we had like a picture diagram that went with it. and the servers or banquet events people, they would have to look at it and memorize it before they could even touch the food. And when that way they didn't take more than what they needed, and they had we had it all lined up on the speed carts in order according to what the event was. Mm-hmm. And when each individual template with the pictures and stuff like that would have a size bowl, I guess you could say, on there, and each one had a different shape. Some of them were like ovals and small circles and stuff like that. Do you think that could be an effective way, or do you think it's kind of obsolete to do it that way?
No, it's good to do it that way too, because the more information you have, the more you over communicate, the better you are, the better you're going to be. So train it where everything goes. Like you said, map it out and have it, because if you don't train it properly, you're going to have a lot of multiple events and a lot of staff coming into your kitchen looking for certain things, and they're going to find it. They're going to take whatever they think or whatever they want to take.
That's right, Chef. And actually, it's a very simple. Sounds complicated that there's so many different things going on, but like a hotel where I worked, they had a thing that all the cold stuff, salad stuff of any type that could be guacamole, hummus, baba ganoush, who knows what, pico, salsa, blah, blah, blah. They had 3 sizes of bowls: small bowls, medium bowls, and large bowls. And all the small ones were the same. There wasn't a whole bunch of small bowls all the same. So if you had an event for 200 people, it'd say, okay, we want 3 small bowls of this and 4 medium bowls of this and 2 large bowls of that and everything. There was no question of what the heck a large bowl was. Everybody who worked there, I mean, after any training at all, working with anybody, they knew what a large bowl of something looked like. So it just cut down on mistakes a lot. And the salad department, when that department had to produce the stuff for it and put it away in the morning, let it start chilling and to walk in and wrapped up, like Chef Miguel said, they would have a banquet event order that said, okay, this event, 225 people, 4 small bowls of this, 3 large bowls of that, and so forth. So many hotel pans and blah, 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 and it was just clear. And anything like that helps to clarify and cut mistakes is good. It's low tech, but if it works, I can promise you'll find kitchens doing it. Yeah.
And not only that doesn't just apply on the industry. Think about school. Think about your classes. What about when we as chef instructors get an extra speed rack for your extra product, for your buffet, your combination, or whatever your practical is going to be? We put a body bag on it, we tag it, we roll it in. Same concept, so nobody goes in and steal your product. So think about that, guys, okay? So don't be afraid to teach new skills. Lacking someone on your team with ability to execute a certain task or to do the list doesn't mean that work can be delegated. Most skills can be learned, some more easily than others, so don't be afraid to teach as part of the delegation process. Though the assignments of your first week task will take more than time and will save you, since you'll need to train your chosen employee. Consider an investment, but transferring those skills, you'll be opening the door to assigning all similar tasks to an individual in the future, ultimately saving more time than you spend teaching, okay? So you gotta do you're gonna be almost an instructor. You're gonna have to show demos and teach new skills to the staff so they can carry on, even something that they have not been exposed to make it, so that way, they can be more highly skilled. I had one cook a while ago in Oklahoma that I hired from the grocery store. She used to work behind the deli meat, and we had her in banquets because she was a good prep cook, and I started showing her how to do the fruit carvings. New skills, because I wasn't going to be there all the time, so we needed to jazz up the fruit trays, the cheese trays. She learned it very well that she took one of the fruit carvings to her job at the grocery store behind the deli, and she had it there for display, and somebody wanted to how much she will sell it for. She learned the skill so much that she started making them and selling them at the store and from her house. So it doesn't just, you got to pass it on. You can't hold that knowledge. You got to make sure the others are successful too, because again, you can't be there 24/7. You gotta go home. You gotta, have a life, right? You gotta go to bed. Yes, go ahead, Daniel.
Sorry, Chef Miguel, I was just gonna bring a point up. Like, it also shows it also shows that, you know, when you have extra skills, it makes you more valuable. But also, in my instance, I took when we were in foundations class, Chef Gary showed us a grilling technique, how to get really good grill marks and how to camp the chicken or whatever meat we were grilling, so that way we knew which way we had laid it, so that way when we would turn it, it would, you know, we would create those great diamond marks. And the first time I did it at my work, my boss was like, he goes, "Dang, you do better grill marks than I do." And I said, "Oh, well," I was like, "I just did what my instructor told me to do." And I was like, it keeps me on track and I know where everything's at. Well, later I told Chef Gary, and Chef Gary told me that, you know, later when it's calmed down or something like that, just teach him the method.
Mhm.
And so basically the student became the teacher and the teacher became the student in that foreground. And he appreciated it later after when I showed him the technique and how we did it, and he thought it was really cool and appreciated it, and told me, if there's anything else you know or might know, don't hesitate to talk to me or give me some advice. So
Yeah, you got to remember, we're always learning, always learning. We don't know everything. If you come across somebody that says, "I know everything," they're lying to you. We don't.
Right.
Always learning.
Hey, Chef, have you ever seen, well, I put it like this. I have never seen a good chef that was really skillful and able to operate well, that I had a lot of respect for, that didn't have some teaching skills. Every successful chef teaches probably a little bit, somewhere between a little bit and a lot every day.
Yeah.
A good chef is going to be a teacher.
That's who we are. We'll always teach, no matter what. You guys are going to take this knowledge and also teach it when you guys go into the industry and have your own place.
And
yeah,
that like, I don't know exactly what kind of place you're working in, Danny, but you know, one of the first things you get to do to get bust out of your regular cook job, you know, you're working hourly, you're making a living, you ain't making a great living, but you're doing okay. Working for some chain restaurant, it's time to grow. Or a one-only restaurant, it's time to grow, and they're going to have their second location, or they're going to have, they got 25, they're going to have their 26th location, and they're going to come to you to go and be the trainer for the new restaurant. They're going to hire a bunch of new people that don't necessarily know your food very well, and you are the one that knows your food, and they're going to send you there to be a trainer. They're going to pay you more hourly money, and you're going to work a lot more hours. You'll work your butt off for a few weeks or a few months, and you become a trainer. Now you got a whole new level of skills that the guy just working the grill every day doesn't have. You've been to the new location, you set up you set up receiving, you set up the storage, you set up the systems for prep, you took the systems you had where you were, you had to make a better system to help that new, bigger restaurant get going. All of a sudden, you're not just a cook anymore, you're a trainer. So if you're a cook who knows how to train people, a cook who knows how to teach people, and bring a new system to a bunch of people that don't know that system at all, what are you now?
You're an instructor.
You are, and you're a trainer. You could just about say you're a chef.
Yes, chef.
Do you know the whole world of food yet? No, but a chef is a cook who leads a kitchen staff. That's a chef. So, I mean, that's when you become a trainer, that's a big piece of becoming a chef. It's not rocket science how people get there. They get good at it. They love it. Somebody recognizes that they got some talent. They put them on something new, and they go over there and they try it. They stumble a couple times, but they succeed. Boom, chef.
That's one thing I've learned at this job. I work on a military base. It's for a contracted contractor who contracted out the military cafeteria there, and basically we cook. It's a 4-man staff, and we run cash register, serving area, and the grills, and we also do all the prep. And so basically everybody has to learn everything. And the owner or the head contractor guy, he has taught me a couple of things as well since I've been there. He's also been willing to teach me a little bit about business and on the business side of it as well, not just cooking and all that. So I appreciate that, and I feel a little bit more confident about what my skills and what I can do because of that.
Yeah.
Right.
Super excellent.
Yeah. So trust, but verify trust. Once the task is delegated, trust your teammate to execute it on his or her terms. This will allow the person to tackle the work the way he or she feels is best. However, don't be afraid to occasionally step in and verify the task is moving along as planned. For example, you made an assignment a week ago that's due tomorrow. Trust that your employee is on top of things, but send them a quick verification email to make sure the person hasn't hit any snags. Doing so encourages more trust and respect within your teammate and helps prevent breakdown in communication and understanding. I'll just give you guys a quick example of, I was running out of potatoes over the last customers in my banquet event, okay? Use feedback loops to improve delegation moving forward. Feedback is the most important part of delegation process, and it works both ways. If your workers have done well with the task you assign, let them know by publicly thanking them and offering genuine praise. If they're falling short, don't be afraid to give them some constructive criticism, constructive directions. I'll go back and I'll talk about the fried chicken buffet. And Chef Gary has been there with me when we have the barbecue buffet, so when we have 2-1 buffets. At the end, when everything's laid out and done right before our servers, one of the things that we always do is go back and give you guys constructive criticism and praise you guys on the work that has been done, and then later go back and, grade you guys accordingly. But on that day, we talk about what keynotes you're supposed to take from that experience, creating that buffet, whether it's fried chicken, the barbecue, the 2-in-1, whatever execution has been done. And thank you guys for doing such a great job after you guys delegated it. So always give constructive criticism, and always give some feedback along the way, because if you don't, your staff is going to be thinking, well, what the hell did I do wrong? Why not get any feedback? What's going on, right? You got to say the good, and also you got to say the bad and the ugly. And if you do, find a way to deliver that message. Don't be just right up blunt and say your food sucks, right? It doesn't bring up a wall, and then you're going to have people rebel against you. Okay.
Should you use like the sandwich method, like start off with a compliment and then get into I guess the meat of what you're trying to say?
The criticism sandwich.
Yes. You know what I'm talking about. Start off with a compliment.
Yeah.
Then the criticism, and then finish with a compliment.
Right. Great job. Excellent, creaminess, velvet in the soup, but it could use a little bit more salt, right?
I think that sandwich thing, that's valid. Some people actually make a point of doing it. And I think it's something you might keep in mind when you have to have like a bit of a talk about something that's more than just a little guiding, coaching type thing, but a little bit more like, we got a little bit of a mistake here that's got to be dealt with. We're trying not to knock them down. We want them to know we still appreciate that we do appreciate, and we want to also leave it on a positive note. So I think the sandwich thing just naturally occurs there. But a lot of the little stuff, I mean, you might coach a person 10 times in an hour, and 3, 4, 5 of those things might be negative, but not in a rough way. And 5 or 10 of those things might be positive, and that's just life in the big city. And if you're nice and cool, and your person you're working with has their head on straight about taking their coaching and getting better at their job, then I don't think there's any need for making any sandwiches.
Nope. So delegating isn't always easy.
Process, makes sense, Jeff. Makes sense.
Yeah.
So delegating it isn't always easy, and the process isn't always clear. But the sooner you start, the sooner you develop the expertise to do it effectively. Realize the process will never be perfect, but learn from your experiences and make ongoing adjustments for improvement. Okay. What is delegating, and how is it different than work directing? Delegating is a critical skill of a supervisor at any level. Delegating involves working with an employee to establish goals, granting them sufficient authority and responsibility to achieve the goals, often giving them substantial freedom in deciding how the goals will be achieved, remaining available as a resource to help them achieve those goals, assessing the quality of their effort and attainment of the goals, and addressing performance issues or rewarding their performance. Ultimately, the supervisor retains responsibility for the attainment of the goals, but chooses to achieve the goals by delegating someone else's. Delegating is different than work directing. Work directing is telling someone what to do and how to do it. Sometimes that pisses you off, right? There usually is much less freedom as to how the employee does the task, and many times much less ownership, participating and learning on the part of the employee as well, okay? Delegation can sometimes be a major challenge for new supervisors to learn because they are concerned about giving up control or struggling to have the confidence and ability to others. And that's one of the things that when you go from an hourly to a salary, from a line cook to a sous chef, that's one of the biggest hurdles that we have, separating the both and having that confidence. Supervisors that can effectively delegate can free up a great deal of their own time, help the direct reports to cultivate expertise and learning, and can all develop their own leadership skills that are critical for problem solving, goal attaining, and learning. Like I said, those are the biggest hurdles we come across because we can't, separate both, okay? How to delegate for growth and performance of your employees. Thomas Horton, a delegation and team building, no solo act, please. Management Review, September 1992, page 58. Suggests the following general steps in accomplishing delegation. 1, delegate the whole task to one person. Because if you delegate the same task to 2, what may happen?
Who do you talk to if it doesn't happen right? They can shrug each other. They can point at each other like this, right? Now what?
Right, guys? What could happen if you delegate the same task to 2 employees?
2 different outcomes.
Bingo, right? And if something goes wrong, not my job. He or she did it, right? Stop pointing fingers. Okay.
That you also have people that have different skill sets. So if you stick 2 people on, I might do a potato one way, and he might do a potato another way, and it doesn't matter. Like he may take your instruction one way and make a potato a certain way, and then I might take your instruction another way and make a potato a different way. And then, like you said, they're just going to point fingers at each other when people just have different mindsets and different skill sets. So it's going to be different. It's going to be challenging to have them come up with the same product.
And you might have 2 alphas in the same delegation task. What's going to happen when you have 2 alphas?
A lot of arguing, bumping heads.
Bumping heads, right?
It's like sticking 2 bulls in a china shop. Ain't gonna work.
So this gives the person complete responsibility for doing the task and increases the person's motivation to do the task as well. It also provides more focus for the supervisor when working with the person to understand that the desired results should look like. Okay. So 2, select the right person to delegate it to. You got to have the right person. Assess his skill and capabilities of the person to be sure that the individual can actually accomplish the task. Does he or she have the knowledge, skill, and abilities to do the task? If not, the person might need training, or perhaps the task should be delegated to someone else. Now, I'm going to stop here for a minute. I'm going to share with you guys, again, I love to share experiences, guys, okay? A while ago, let's see if I can pause for a minute here, okay? A while ago, I was in the kitchen, right? And I was working with a team of stewards, dishwashers, back in 99, 2000 here in Texas at Lakeway. And they were coming off their housing. They were having some, how should I say, mental issues. They were in their housing. They were trying to get them back into the system. Okay. They couldn't cope with real life activities, and they were adults, so they couldn't keep them in the system. So anyways, in this housing, they were trying to get them to be dependent, how to pay bills, how to take care of their home, how to do the laundry, how to be a productive citizen. So the coach will bring him on the van to the establishment in the morning and will pick him up afterwards. So one of them, he was very shy, very, very shy. He was always in the dish pit, always kept it clean, organized, and he always came, didn't say a word, didn't speak. I thought he was mute or deaf, because honestly, I didn't think the guy speak a word. So one day he was in the back kitchen in the dish pit, and if he had nothing to clean on the pot and pan sink or nothing to organize, because he was very anal retentive, he would just stand there and smile on his face. One day he comes up to me, and out of the blue he says, "Chef," I'm like, holy smokes, he speaks, the hell. And it's like, "I want to be a chef." I'm like, what? First you speak, and now you want to be a chef? And I took that, with a grain of salt. So I put him in the prep, awesome prep guy. I put him in the employee cafeteria cook. I promoted him, gave him a little more. He could handle. He handled it very well. But what my mistake was, we were doing things with employees that they either pre-made or boxed, like fried catfish, already breaded, already fried some French fries, that sort of thing. He was prepping the salads, the dressing. He kept the cafeteria very clean, very organized. He was on top of his game. So one day he was making mashed potatoes, and I told him how, I delegated him to how to make mashed potatoes slowly, because again, he's a little bit slow. So I said, grab the tilt skillet, fill it with so much water, add your butter, your heavy cream, and then your salt, and slowly add your pearl potatoes. And you guys been used this before, right? Come on, we're not gonna say we always cook fresh potatoes. So he's grabbing the carton of potato pearls, and he's whisking them on the skillet as the water is boiling. I step off and come back, and he's there still whisking those potatoes. And the potatoes are bubbling and they're burning his face. You gotta look back, and when you delegate, think about 2, 3, 4 steps in front of the task that's a handy delegate. Because in this case, I didn't say to him, when the potatoes are done and you mix them, step off and turn off the fire or turn off the heat. I didn't say that. So on his mind, he was doing everything I told him to, even though he was still stirring the potatoes with a whisk, and they were bubbling. And as the bubble, the potatoes were, jumping up high and sticking to his arm and his face, and getting burnt. I'm like,
yeah.
So yeah, delegate, follow back, but not just say, hey, do this task. Go further and do the step 1, 2, and 3 after the task is completed, so they would understand why it's important to do certain tasks. Okay.
Hey, Chef, I want to share about a 20-second story on that also, something like that. At a cafe, I had a kid who was a dishwasher, and he was getting okay at cooking, and he was getting okay at basic prep. Plus, he'd actually make the salads and dress them and put them out during the rush. So he was about 50% cook, 50% dish and utility. And one day I had to go to the courthouse or the town or something for some little piece of business, and I said I'd be back in about an hour. And I said, I need you to get this done and this done, please. And I want you to strain the chicken stock and chill it down. And I something in my head I had the idea that he knew all that. Like I assumed he had strained chicken stock and chilled it before. I don't know, but I came back and he had taken some pies out and had them cooling down. He took this and did that. He did all the things that and I said, okay, what about the chicken stock? And he took me to walk in, and he showed me all the bones in the mirepoix. He said, here you go. I said, where's the stock? He said, right here. So where's the liquid? Well, I put it down the sink drain. He just didn't know really what stock was.
So yeah,
Chef Gary, did Chef Papa show up?
Chef Papa, no, he took a day off. I mean, I think I didn't tell the guy. I think I never really explained to him, hey, I use this liquid, and when these bones are all cooked out for 5 hours like this, they're pretty much shot. You can munch a couple of scraps off them, but we don't keep them for anything. I didn't tell him any of that, I guess. So my stock wound up being a bunch of bones and mirepoix. And you gotta be clear. You give somebody some industry buzzword that they don't already know. You cannot assume that they know what you're talking about. You got to be clear. You can ask a question or two, make sure they know what you're talking about, and you're developing good communication habits.
Yeah, you gotta lay it out and write it step by step, be thoroughly clear, because again, not everybody speaks the same language as you do. Or you do.
How would you do that without like insulting someone's intelligence? Because like I know that's a big thing in today's world. Like people assume they know everything, but sometimes they don't. And when you ask them if they know how to do something, they get offended and they're like, "What the hell?"
Well, I'll give you an example. During the lineup, and I'll tag Ms. Mercedes from Foundations again. During the lineup, we do line. Well, you know, we supposed to do lineup every day, right? When we go into the kitchen, we do lineup. We look for your thermometer, your Sharpie, your full uniform, your jacket, your hat, your weapon, the whole 9 yards. And we also look for your production sheet. And we, you know, have a tendency to asking certain individuals as I go to the lineup, the first one, okay, what are you making? Okay, what are you making today? So they'll tell me, I'm making this. And even though you go through a lecture of certain techniques, then I will go ahead and follow through. Okay, well, we're gonna do this, and that. And it's not saying that, you know, I don't trust them or I don't know what they're doing, but there might be something that they missed and something that they didn't catch or something that I left out during the process of that technique. So when I speak to them, you know, on a one-on-one basis, they get my full attention of what the dish was supposed to get, where to get it, and how to go about it. In this case, when you go into the kitchen and you delegate certain items without, you know, insulting their experience and knowledge, you know, you go through the steps one by one and ask them, are we okay? Are we good with this? And they say, yes, chef, I got it, no problem. And then maybe sometimes you ask to repeat that back to you to make sure that they catch it, because a lot of times you're going to have those cooks on the line that say, yeah, I got it, just to shut you up, just to say, I don't want to hear you anymore. And then when you go in the kitchen, guess what happens? You're going to have a plate of grilled asparagus, an appetizer on the grill, and your grill cook, when you turn your back, he or she's going to drop in the fry later to look like the grill, and then you're going to put them in a plate. Okay, so you gotta make it clear, and you gotta also, you know, have them repeat it so they can understand. Some of them are going to be very highly skilled, and the ones that aren't, maybe they don't know a different technique. Like, you know, in the kitchens, I always go back, and when we do the seafood cookery and we're doing the shrimp, you know, I'm assuming everybody knows how to peel shrimp, right? And everybody pretty much gets it and they peel shrimp. But I go back and show them a different way of peeling that shrimp or cutting a bell pepper or doing certain things different, not to insult their intelligence, but to add to their intelligence. So don't think about insulting it. I think about adding to their knowledge and intelligence, enhancing their knowledge.
Yeah, Chef, was that question from you, James, that question?
Yep.
So I think, Chef, you're right on there, and maybe it's one of those short conversations you have the first day or two, or maybe when you have some kind of an orientation. We usually, in a small operation, we hire one person at a time. Even in a bigger operation, every hire is that you got to have some kind of short chat when you first hire them and go over some things, right? And maybe one of the first things is, this is never ever about insulting your intelligence. Please don't be defensive when I try to share with you things that I want you to know, ways I expect you to do stuff. And it's hard to train people who are acting defensively. It's not my desire to make you have a bad day. It is my desire to help you be a good cook. And then later, when you're trying to talk to them about something and they're getting defensive, you just kind of de-escalate a little bit and say, well, just remember our first conversation we had, our first serious conversation we had was me telling you that there's certain things I got to have a certain way. And I do it because I have an idea how I want the food to look and be and taste. And it's not about you being not good. It's just about me getting what I want, and I am the chef.
And also, you can put it in different terms too. And I'll go back and I'll talk about, you know, when I'm scanning my classroom and I'm scanning you guys, you know, in regionals or from the table, away from Foundations, you guys are supposed to have certain knife skills and knife sets or techniques, right? And I might see you with a bell pepper on your hand at your table on the right cutting board, the whole 9 yards, and you may be cutting a julienne or a small dice. And now I'm gonna watch you, and I'm gonna scan it, and then go back and show you, and then start with, let me show you a different way how to cut this pepper. No way is right or wrong, but let me show you a different technique. And then once I start showing them, then they see that it's a little bit different, maybe more faster, cleaner, with reducing waste, because I'm always talking about you got to reduce waste. You got to utilize the whole product. And then I end going back. When I finish, I say, okay, in the kitchen, it's not about how fast you can run with like a chicken with the head cut off. It's how efficient you can be multitasking and doing a project that is going to reduce time and you're going to be more fast. That's what we look for. So first, let me show you a different way. This way is not right or wrong, but you can adapt and do it your way so you find it more feasible for you. Go ahead and knock it out and follow through. If not, go back the way you were doing it. But on the long term, if this is your restaurant, you want to cut back on waste, you want to speed up your process, and you want to be more efficient. So that's the thing that I put up in the front. So some get it, and then it clicks on their head. All right, then I know what he's talking about. He or she's talking about. So there's different ways to deliver the message. Okay, it's just is the way how you go about it. You show them one thing, and then you show them the end and why and the how come. Not to insult intelligence.
I think the person who takes criticism right is ready to become a leader, and the person who wants to argue every time you talk to them is barely ready to be a cook. I think you can sit down and just be blunt about that with people and say, well, you can be a pretty good cook if you'll have a real conversation with me when I try to coach you.
So there's different ways you can go about it. It all depends on your personality and how you want your staff to be successful, okay, when delegating. 2, select the right person to delegate. Again, you got to have the right one. You got to scan it, and you got to also make sure that you know your staff, okay? What else? 3, clearly specify your preferred results, okay? Provide information on what the results should look like, why those results are desired, when the results should be accomplished, who else might help the person, what resources the person has to work with. You might leave on how to accomplish the task to be decided by the person. It is often best to write this information out. I just give you guys a prime example of, when I have a student in my class and they're having a bell pepper, I watch them how to do so, and I go back and explain, let me show you a different way. There's no right and wrong way, but let me show you how come and why, this may be a little bit different than you're used to. Maybe it's going to help you out, okay? 4, delegate responsibility and authority. Assign the task, not to the method of accomplishing it. Let the person complete the task in the manner that he or she chooses, as long as the desired results are likely to be what the supervisor specifies. Let the person have a strong input as to the completion of the data project. Know that you may not even know how to complete the task yourself. This is often the case with the higher levels of management. Make sure others, like the organization, understand that this person has both the responsibility and the authority to complete the task. In farm to table, okay? You guys are going to culminate, and you guys are going to create a menu, 10-course item, hopefully, split into 2 teams. So we have 2 different menus. To delegate it is, on this part is, you guys are going to have, and the chef is going to tell you guys, on this date, I need the menu. And we're going to go over the menu, what you guys have. And you guys might get a little bit offended, might get a little bit upset on the menu project. You cannot repeat 2 items on the same menu. Like you can have rice here and rice over here. It's got to be a totally different starch. And everything you guys decide to do on the combination has to be done in the house. Nothing pre-bought, nothing pre-made. You can't buy some Wonder Bread and use it in your combination. You got to make it in your house. So, I mean, in the house. So give a specific dates, the goal, and how come it needs to be done. And, and let them run with it so we can produce that menu, okay? Ask the person to summarize back to you a description of the results you prefer. Explain that you're requesting a summary to be sure that you effectively describe the results to the person, not necessarily to be sure that the person heard you. That explanation helps the person not to feel as he or she somehow being mistreated, as he or she is untrustworthy. I just give you guys an example. Production sheets. I go one by one on the techniques. And you can always say, can you, do we understand? Do you know what I'm talking about? And have them repeat it back to you so you can think about what you said and how much information they retain. You go back, no, remember, I didn't say this, okay? So again, I'll give you another example, okay? One of my students a while ago, 2 years ago, was looking for rosemary. I know some of you guys, I might have told you the story. Now this is and we had another class. It was another kitchen class. I think it was a classical regional. So anyways, he comes up to me and asks for a sprig of rosemary. So I tell him it's in the cooler, inside the cooler on the speed rack on top. And hear me what I'm saying to you guys, okay? This is exactly what I said to him. It's on the speed rack on top, very top. This is a sheet pan. It's one lonely sprig on the sheet tray. Goes off, 5 minutes go by, I go back and look for him. He comes out of the cooler with a grocery plastic bag in his hands. He pulls it out and it tells us this rosemary. I said, no, that's parsley. So I go back and say, hey, let me show you. So I open up the cooler, not to insult him, to make sure maybe he didn't have that product ID. He didn't know what it looked like. But my instructions specifically say where to find it. So I opened up the cooler on the speed rack on top of the sheet tray, one lonely sprig of rosemary. I handed it to him. I said, here it is. Needless to say, he looked at it. He grabbed a look at it and asked me, questioned me, if I was sure that was rosemary, because it looked like cilantro to him or something else. Yeah.
Some cilantro.
Yeah. So you got to describe it. You got to be thorough of how you delegate. Okay. You got to have them repeat it back to you, not to insult them. Make sure that they understand what you're talking about. Okay.
That's right, Chef. Look, I'm not trying to insult you. I'm just trying to be sure I was clear, because as a supervisor, I can make a mistake. I mean, that's how I got the chicken bones, right?
Right.
I
Well,
didn't tell him that. So if I say to him, how are you going to do that now? And he says to me, well, I'm gonna put a strainer. I'm gonna pass the chicken stock through there, and then I'm gonna let all that ugly liquid go away. I'm gonna put the bones on a sheet pan, cool them down. No.
So, yeah.
This was my chance to catch that I was about to make a mistake and let him go without clear instructions.
Have it repeated back to you guys. That's the best way. 6, get ongoing, non-intrusive feedback of the progress of the project. A good reason to continue to go weekly. Written status reports to the person. Reports should describe what he or she did last week, plans to do next week, and any potential issues that might have arise. Regular meetings with the person to provide feedback as well. Okay. 7, maintain open lines of communication. Okay. Do not hover over the person to monitor his or her performance, but do this. What he, she is doing is support the person's checking in with you while you're doing the task. Okay. The worst thing you can do is hang over their shoulder and make sure they're doing it. Can't, because it might slap you side of the head. Okay. 8, if you're not satisfied with the progress, do not do the task yourself. You can't jump in, because what happens if you decide to handle the task by yourself? What could happen?
They're just going to take advantage of you.
Right.
I think that if you're going to jump in and do it, then they don't have to keep doing it. They don't have to try to get better.
And what's going to happen next time that happens again? The recurring events. They're going to expect you to jump in and do the job for them, right? And guess what?
Yeah, they don't hold themselves responsible. Or
correct.
And somebody was concerned, I guess, James, a while ago, concerned about how maybe I'm insulting them. Maybe that's a time they could feel insulted. Hey, you gave me this job, you jumped in on top of it. Gave me another job the next week, jumped in on top of it. He doesn't trust me, right?
Yeah, so when you delegate a project, don't go in there and do the project for them. Now, if they're in the weeds, if there's a project you need right off the bat, you may help them, but don't do the project for them, because they'll never learn, and you'll set the precedence. You'll be doing the job for them all the time. They'll be expecting that, okay? 8, if you're not satisfied with the progress, again, do not do the task yourself, okay? 9, evaluate and reward the person's performance. Evaluate achievements of the desired results more than the methods used by the person. Address insufficient performance and reward success. Okay? You got to reward them. You got to, hey, great job. Hey, I like what you did. So don't let it go by, because that shows that you value your employees a lot. Okay. Effective problem solving and decision making. Types of decision makers. Problem solving and decision making belong together. You cannot solve a problem with making a decision. There are 2 main types of a decision maker. Some people are systematic, a rational approach. Others are more intuitive. They go with their emotions or gut feeling about the right approach. They may have highly creative ways to address a problem, but can only explain why they have chosen this approach. So how are you guys? Are you guys systematics? Are you guys intuitive? Solving the problem.
I feel like I'm more intuitive when it comes to it, but that's just me.
I can be systematic at times, though. Not every argument, just sometimes.
You know, it's good to be both too. Okay, guys, it's good to be two. You have your gut feeling, but also have a rational approach about it.
Yeah, that's what I was about to ask. Is it okay to, like, can you be both? Because I feel that I have both.
So I'm gonna share another story with you guys, right? We had a bartender at work, and he came in one day, and my gut feeling told me that he was not in his senses. Okay. Now we had a problem on our hand because when somebody is either under the influence or whatever nocturnal activity they were doing at that time, they came into work not 100%. They were still under whatever influence they were on. They could probably hurt somebody or hurt themselves or be, lash out at the customer. So my gut feeling told me that he was not right. So I didn't go and address the problem as face on, dead on. I consulted with another manager. Hey, give me a hand and watch, John Doe, go take a look at him and see if I'm right or if he's not feeling well. So we came to an agreement that we pulled him off and took him to the human resources department. So we called her ahead of time and said, we're bringing so-and-so to your office. Can you spare some time? We want to address that, he's not looking so well. Well, lo and behold, to make a long story short, the guy was on about 5 different mix of drugs in the system. He had a kamikaze cocktail in the system.
Dang.
You can imagine the worst ones, okay? So we had to call his wife to come and pick him up. After we sent him to one of the rooms, and security guard stood outside his room to make sure that he didn't hurt himself or he walked out, because you cannot send him home driving or get a taxi cab. So we had to let him calm down a little bit, come down off his high, call his wife, come pick him up and drive him home. The next day he came and got his car. He was fired at the go. But again, think about the gut feeling and rational what to do about it. So you got to get a second opinion. Sometimes you cannot just act on the bat. So it's good to be both at the same time. But again, some of us are not. Okay.
Yes, sir.
Anyways, intuitive or systematic. Okay. 6 problem-solving steps. The most effective method uses both rational and intuitive, just like I was telling you guys, or creative approaches. There are 6 steps in the process. Identify the problem, search for alternatives, weigh the alternatives, make a choice, implement the choice, evaluate the result, and then start the process again. In this case, he was let go, so we had to call somebody. They come in earlier, or they come in the day off. Well, the boss, jumped in and became the bartender at that time until somebody else came in. Fortunately, the guy that was working as a manager, he used to be he climbed up the ranks, so he was a bartender before, so he knew the inventory, how to make mixed cocktails, so he was able to slot in. Okay, identify the problem. To solve a problem, you must first determine what the probe actually is. The problem, the probe, you may think about, you may think but you need to check it out. Sometimes it's easy to focus on symptoms, not the causes. Use a rational approach to determine what the problem is. The question you might ask include, what have I or others observed? What was I or others doing at the time the problem occurred? Is this problem in itself a symptom of a deeper underlying problem? What information do I need? Do we have already tried to address this issue? In this case, the guy was too far gone and it couldn't be saved. Because, even as everybody got hired there, you had to sign your application. And part of it was, if you are coming, it was a drug-free, alcohol-free job environment. But there was a little clause there. If you are under the influence, you have an issue, you can opt to seek help, and they will support you and help you out, but you got to clean yourself and you can come back to work. In this case, he was gone. Okay. For example, the apprentice you supervise comes to you saying that the electric warming of it is not working properly. Before you call the repair technician, you might want to ask a few questions. You may want to find out what the apprentice meant by not working properly. Does he or she know how to operate the equipment? Does he or she check that equipment was plugged in? If the fuse circuit breaker was checked, did it work last? So you got to ask those questions to make sure that you before you go further. Many times in the kitchen, the blender doesn't work. Well, there's a little breaker switch in the bottom that you got to flick it, or the GFI on the outlet hanging from the ceiling is off. So you got to check those before you start proceeding. Or maybe the food processor, the lid is not moved properly and it's not working. Okay, so you got to look all the safety nets before you can proceed moving forward. Okay. You may be able to avoid an expensive service call at the very least. You will be able to provide valuable information to the repair technician that aids in the troubleshooting process. Okay, of course, many of the problems that you will face in the kitchen are much more complex than a malfunctioning one. You may have to deal with the problems such as discrepancies between actual and expected food costs, labor costs that have reduced, lack of budget to complete needed renovations in the kitchen, disputes between staff. Okay, it's a lot of things that go in there. However, the basic problem solving remains the same, even the problems identified differ. In fact, the more complex the problem is, the more important it is to methodically in your problem solving approach. Okay, search for alternatives. Okay, it may seem obvious that you have to do to address a problem. Occasionally, this is true, but most times it's important to identify possible alternatives. This is where the creative side of the problem solving comes. It really comes in. So when you have a problem in the kitchen, okay, let's say your freezer went down, and that happens all the time. What is it? What are the steps that you guys got to do to save the product in the freezer? Maybe you have $30,000-$40,000 in the freezer. What can you do? What is the issue? Guide me through it. That was your establishment. You have about $30,000 worth of product inventory. What would you do to save the product to solve that problem?
That actually happened at one of my jobs. So the freezer went down. So what we did is we had make lines. So what we did was we turned one of them to the temperature of the freezer, and we put the product in the make line.
Okay. Anyone else?
Start buying ice.
Yeah. What else?
Okay, I've never worked in a restaurant setting, but I think signage would be the first thing to, notify people that it is broken and not to open the door, to try to maintain that temperature. And from there, just kind of like Christian said, probably get ice and put it in there with the rest of the stuff, but definitely trying, to minimize the amount of times you open it if you need to.
Yeah.
Yeah, know what you're going to be going in there for. Open, get it, and close it. Very, very good point. Very important point. What other things could you do to help minimize the loss until you can get some, or minimize, warming up and stuff until you can get someone in there to work on it?
And I'm putting this scenario. I'm putting this scenario because it does happen. So what would you do to take a look at the problem, think about it, and then try to fix it to save the product? Remember, you got $30,000 worth of product in the freezer. What can you do to save the product before it goes bad? What should you do? What are the steps?
Wouldn't it also be smart to have a procedure in place before that actually happens, so you're proactive instead of reactive?
Like having coolers in case something happens?
Yeah.
Yes. Would it be worth it to know if you're in a situation where you have enough parking lot space and stuff like that? If it's really a heavy inventory, $30,000, you might be able to call your mainline supplier, like your Cisco or your US Foods or a Vendra or somebody like that, and get them to rent you a refrigerated trailer that just gets pulled up and parked, and the refrigeration unit running right outside your back door. Secure locks on it. Maybe you have to use that for a week until the thing is properly repaired. If you have a lot of money in inventory, might beat the heck out of losing a lot of product.
When I was in the military, we had a similar problem like this arise. It wasn't our freezer, but it was our reefer trailer. It went out, and we ended up having to. There was no prevention at this point. We ended up having to throw away all of the food and get new once they could get us out a new trailer, which would have been a day to 2 days. It ended up coming within that, almost at that 2-day mark. But as I said, we ended up having to throw everything out as it was. Yeah, and it was at least. I don't know how much cost-wise it was, but it was enough to feed 500 people for 2 days, 2-3 days. So, you can do the math right there. That's a lot of money that got thrown away, and there was nothing we could do about it because they couldn't get us out of trailer.
Yeah.
So I mean, that's worst case scenario, you know? That's not what you want. You want to be able to fix it right away, but we couldn't.
Yeah, that's rough.
Find solutions. Your freezer goes out on a Saturday night. At 11 o'clock, you find out your freezer is out. The best thing to do, you're not going to getting a food trailer truck is awesome, but you're not going to get it on Sunday or Saturday at 12 o'clock midnight. So the best thing to do is try to grab some of the proteins, the high dollar items, maybe put them in your cooler, or maybe your breads and French fries, and like Mercedes said, put a sign, do not open, because any food that is in your freezer, it takes about 24 hours to completely thaw. It has about 24-hour shelf life. Minus your ice cream. Your ice cream can be lost, or find another freezer to store your ice cream. But bread, desserts, meats, everything else has about 24-hour shelf life before it really starts thawing out. So you got that window of keeping the door closed, keeping the cold air inside, trapping it, not to go in and out, so you don't lose your product. And then, you know, find out if maybe the breaker switch went off. Call the maintenance. If you don't have one, maybe call one of the restaurant maintenance places. They're going to charge you overtime because, again, it's Saturday, 11, 12 o'clock midnight, or they may charge you to come in on Sunday. They're not going to come in on Saturday, 1 o'clock in the morning to fix it. So you're going to have to pay X amount of money to come in for them to come and take a look at it Sunday. When they come in Sunday, your freezer is still holding temperature. Maybe not minus 10 degrees, the way it should be, or minus 3 degrees. It would be like about maybe 25, 30 degrees Fahrenheit because you're not opening it, and your solid products, your whole meats, your products are very solid and keep cold for a long time. Those are the ones that are going to keep everything else cooler or colder for the meantime. Your ice cream, you can count to be lost. And then the next day come in to fix it, and the problem is now solved. Yeah, go ahead and call your sales rep. So maybe Monday, they can allocate one of your trailers to come and help you guys out until the issue gets fixed. So find a solution, find different ways to deal with certain things because it might happen. It has happened to me several times, and it is no fun. So you got to find a solution how to take care of that issue. Okay.
Other things you can do too, like if you have a 2-door refrigerator, if that's just completely chock full of low dollar things like bread, you know, bread truck bread, sandwich bread, frozen baguettes that you have to bake before you can use them and things like that. That's not a lot of money in there. You could sacrifice that stuff, pull it out to room temp. You can still find some ways to utilize that stuff, like bake it off and make breadcrumbs and stuff out of it. But now you've freed up a whole 2-door reach-in for what?
More later on, once it's fixed, you can re-up.
How about high dollar stuff?
Yeah.
You move out $250 worth of bread and you bring in $4,000 worth of meat in there.
True.
Shrimp, lobster.
I'd rather throw away some $10 case sandwich bread than some $30 a pound tenderloin.
And another thing, Chef, to add on to that, like if you're gonna do that, like you said, like with those small dollar items, you could actually turn that into like a little special or a little side piece or something like that, just to add on to the meal that everybody, so you could still get a little bit of profit out of it. And like Chef Miguel said, it's going to be a 24-hour period before it defrosts, so you got some time to play with, especially if you take the frozen stuff out and stick it in the refrigerator. That's going to cut back on the time a little bit on the defrost. So then when you do that, you still have your high dollar items, but you're still making up money off your low profit items.
Yeah, if you're thinking, you can make some pretty good decisions and you can hold off some financial disaster. You sure can. That's all I got.
I got a question for you guys. It was my NCO's decision to do that, like throw everything out. What would you guys have done differently, like being in the industry as well? Like, do you think there was any possible way to save it? I mean, considering we were out in the field in a remote location?
Depending on the item.
Sorry, Chef, go ahead.
Depending on the item, some can be let the shelf at room temperature, it'll be fine. Some you can't.
It was like, some of it was like frozen steaks, like some taco meat and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Oh, I would certainly try to keep that frozen and sacrifice other cheaper stuff. I would certainly take the cheaper stuff that was worth working with and turn it into, breadcrumbs, croutons, bread pudding. Even if you just tore it up and bake it off in the oven a little bit so it's dry, so it can be stored at room temperature. I mean, you could just have to look at every part of that inventory and see what you can save, and you apply your effort and the hourly money you're paying. You apply those resources to the things that you can save the most money by saving. So maybe I don't spend much time on bread that's 75 cents a loaf. Maybe I put some serious hourly dollars into trying to figure out and deal with a proper storage method for the short term for some tenderloins. Like I said, you probably won't save it all, but you'll really focus your efforts on trying to save what really costs the money.
Yeah. All right, guys, let's take a 10-minute break. Come back at about, what is it right now, 8:10? Let's come back like around 8:20. Go stretch your leg, check in your goldfish, make sure the cat didn't eat it, use the rest.
You're almost done.
Yeah.
You're posting right now.
Take a 10-minute break. We'll come back. We'll finish up, okay? All right, guys? I want to hear from the ones in the back that don't always speak next time, okay? When we come back.
Yes.
All right.
I won't speak anymore then.
No, that's fine. I want to hear from Shaheed, Austin.
Step in and argue with you guys. That's what I want.
Oh, I love a good argument, Chef. What are we going to argue about?
I'm saying, yeah, arguments can be helpful. Good ones, the right ones.
Yeah.
I love a good argument.
But we're always here to learn, right? We're here to learn, right?
I'm always
Chef.
arguing. I'll just take a break from arguing. I'll give it up to somebody else.
No, Cam, we need you.
Hey, Chef Miguel, I have a quick question.
Go ahead.
Regarding staffing for our restaurants when we're doing the project. Now, is there a specific way that we should go about doing that, or is it based on our concept? Like if we're doing casual dining, expensive, what are your thoughts and how should we go about doing so?
It's based on your concept, and it's also based on your menu.
Okay.
Let's say you're going to have a food truck, then your staffing is going to be very small. You're going to have maybe 3 on your food truck, maybe 2 utilities to help you load it, prep, and so forth, so on. Maybe say you're going to have a bake shop. Your staff is going to be small. Let's say you're going to have a breakfast, then it might be maybe 7, 10 cooks. It also depends on your concept and your menu. If your menu is high dollar items, if it's maybe some pasta, lobster, truffle oil, then your check average is going to be a little bit higher. Is your concept towards the general public, or you're targeting certain demographics? So you got all those going hand in hand. Once you have your concept and your menu done, then you check average of how much you will sell a day, and then from that you can do your schedule.
Okay.
So concept.
So targeted demographic or just general public, along with your high dollar items to determine your check averages as well as your concept and your menu.
Correct. But you got to have your menu done so you can take a look at your pricing, and then from there do your check average. And this menu is it a bistro? Do you have pasta dishes, Tex-Mex, comfort food, or is it more high end? Do you have like reservations only? Then your revenue is going to be a lot smaller, so your staff should be a lot smaller too.
Okay.
It all depends on your concept and your menu.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Chef.
You're welcome.
I have a question about that too, Chef. Like with mine being like a gamer lounge with food, basically. What like would you recommend like 1 or 2 runners and then like 2 or 3 cooks or less?
I would go for cooks, and I would go definitely maybe 3 runners, because if you're gonna open 5 days a week or 7 days a week, you want to make sure that you have coverage throughout the whole week. So 2 are full time, and 1 is the floater. 1 fills in for the other ones are have days off, and on the 5th day maybe do 3 runners, and maybe do 1 in the middle, 1 a.m., 1 p.m., and 1 to be kind of in between. So you always have a runner.
Okay, makes sense. Thank you, Chef.
Good.
Chef, is the the last email you sent with this article, is this, you said this is the homework?
For tomorrow, yeah. Yeah, for tomorrow.
Is it the same thing? You just want a response over what was discussed?
Correct. Because this
Okay.
is the one that I sent you guys yesterday was geared towards more in hotels. This is more to restaurant and kitchens, and what kind of to expect. This is more realistic. Not so.
So I can send you an email, I guess, with okay.
Yeah.
Is this one from someone in the industry, or is this from like an innocent bystander? I guess you could call him.
No, somebody within the industry.
Okay, because like the last one, I mean, they brought up some good points, but as we've all said, it was kind of impractical to do, you know.
Yeah, no, this one is from a chef, so it's from a chef's point of view.
Okay.
Yeah, that last lady.
Yeah,
I think she fell into that whole don't be so open-minded that your brains fall out category. She was
Yeah, but this was more realistic.
she had her hopes pretty high.
She went too far down the rabbit hole.
Yeah.
Jeff, you had said my menu looked good and that you think it was suitable to use.
Well, I got to take a look at more in detail and really dissect it. I just looked it over in general, how the format looked, but I got to go read it and find out if it's feasible or not. I just, did a quick glance.
Okay. Do you mind if we do that after class so I can get some feedback and input?
Sure.
Okay.
Yeah, take a break.
I am. I mean, I'm here. I'm chilling.
I never take a break, chef.
I said, chef, take a break.
Oh. I mean, I am a chef. Isn't that what you said? It's the day that you decide you're a chef? I've been decided that, Chef Gary.
Good. Well, I'm talking to the other chef that I'm talking to right now then. What if Chef Miguel has to go hit the bathroom or something like that?
And my dog is okay. Actually, let him out in the backyard. He's in his bed.
Chef Miguel doesn't take breaks either. He doesn't have to go to the bathroom. He's Superman.
Yeah, I thought that one time too till I fell down into the hospital.
Nice. Yeah, I'm gonna get a water. Come back. Getting thirsty. Running out of spit.
Why is it so quiet in here?
Austin David Peters.
Protein bar, chef. That's the dinner of champions right there. Oh, Chef Gary's got some oranges. Bet.
Boosting my immune system.
Yeah, you know you need to. You might be in the high risk profile area.
Might be blueberries, oranges, dark green. Couple beers.
You know.
Blueberry infused whiskey.
Hey.
I always say a shot of whiskey a day keeps the corona away.
I never did have coronavirus.
Wouldn't corona keep coronavirus away?
I don't know.
Or does that inhibit the not inhibit? I guess does that make you have the coronavirus?
If you drink too much,
make you forget about it.
Like the prime minister or president of Denmark was encouraging his countrymen to get the coronavirus to kind of get it out the way.
He was seriously like saying, "Go ahead and just try to get exposed to it."
Just to get exposed to it, that way, kind of like, oh, once you get it and you're done, then that's it. You know,
let's get this over with.
Yeah.
That is not true.
No,
I'll do it.
You know, somebody might get exposed and then develop an antibiotic, and then they might or might not get some immunity later. But so many people that get this go down with it. Like, it kills many people.
It does, but they've also determined in Wuhan, where it started, that a lot of people who had it and recovered are getting it again.
They can still
getting it does not automatically immunize you from not getting it again.
No. This is gonna be tough. We have to really, really stick it out and keep that social distancing thing. Maybe some great fortune will happen and they'll actually get a vaccine or get a cure. But the scientists say that that's a long, slow process. There are a couple things that you can expedite, like that, you know, but not much. Most of it is just time.
Well, there's a lot of, and I posted it in the chat, there's this conspiracy theory right now, the Agenda ID 2020, where they've already, some big pharma companies have already started testing in Bangladesh. And as a part of the testing, they're microchipping people. There's a few articles out there on it. So it's really weird. There's a lot of conspiracy theories going on around now, and saying that Bill Gates and his wife are a part of it. They did funding to start. Yeah, it's really weird. There's a lot of
Mercedes. Let's not go down that hole, okay? let's keep it where it lies, and let's not dig too far deep down into that rabbit hole, because I can go for days.
I love conspiracy theories.
You talking about them RFID chips?
Yep, the Agenda ID 2020. It's out there.
Hey, them chips right there, the microchips that's the devil right there, man. Mark of the beast.
We had a very effective, mounted a very effective campaign against it by really going through all that high-tech business of mapping people's recent travels and so forth, so that when somebody did prove to be ill with it, they were able to get to the folks that had contact with and test them. And it apparently is part of what helped a lot for them to have a lower rate of infection by a long ways than other certain countries.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure somebody's making some conspiracy theory about how that's a lie and we're all going to die or something. I'm sure somebody's got that somewhere, you know. Yeah.
You know, when I was at work the other day, when I was at work the other day, I was talking to my coworkers about the coronavirus, and, you know, I was basically telling them, like, what I think about it, that it's not that big of a deal, that it's already been part of society, you know, it's in medical books and everything. And we had this lady that my coworker was checking out, And all of a sudden she freaked out, and she turns around and she's like, "That's not true. You should keep things to yourself." And I turned around and I was like, "What?" Like I just stopped talking because, you know, obviously she felt offended by it. So I just waited till she left to finish my conversation. But we were just like so freaked out that she was freaking out about it.
Well, she might be worried that she's saying stuff that's not true and that people could get sick because of listening to stuff that's not true. She might believe that what you're saying is completely wrong or something, you know? Like if you were spouting some theory that's not proven, it's just some stuff somebody's saying somewhere, she might feel like it's not responsible to repeat stuff like that. But it doesn't sound like you guys got far enough in the conversation to find out what was really making her tick about the whole thing, right?
Yeah, no, I was just talking about how like it wouldn't affect people with high immune system as much than it would for somebody with a lower immune system.
And yet it's taken down relatively healthy young people that should have a pretty strong immune system, and it's taken them down in a few days. So it's kind of hard to say that even if you have a strong immune system, you are for sure going to be able to ride through it okay if you do get sick. Can't quite say that. It's taken down strong, healthy 23-year-old woman, you know? So it's tricky. It's pretty scary, really.
Contagion. If anyone's seen that movie, Contagion, this is Contagion all over again. This is exactly what Contagion is.
It's a great movie.
To give you something to think about. Yep. Okay, Chef, sorry for us back here. Let's get rocking.
All right, more to delegation, right? So let's pick up where we left off. Again, search for alternatives. Brainstorm with the group can be an excellent tool. Identify potential alternatives. Think of as many possibilities as possible. Write down these ideas, even if they seem somewhat zany or offbeat on the first impression. Sometimes really silly ideas can contain the germ of a superb solution. Too often people move too quickly into making a decision without really considering all the options. Spending more time researching, searching alternatives and weighing the consequences can really pay off. So sometimes when you culminate and think about how to search for alternative, it's better off than just thinking and taking the whole project by itself, because we're not perfect. We don't know everything. Okay. With alternatives, once a number of ideas have been generated, you need to assess each of them so to see how effective they may be in addressing the problem. Consider the following factors: impact on the organization, effect on public relations, impact on employees, organizational climate, cost, legality, ethics of actions, whether this course is permitted under collective agreements, whether this idea can be used to build another idea. Okay, so always got to think about the peripheral vision. Make a choice. Some individuals and groups that were making the decisions. Not making a decision is in itself a decision. By postponing a decision, you may eliminate the number of options or alternatives. You lose control over the situation. In some cases, a problem can escalate if it's not dealt with properly. For example, if you do not handle the customer complaints promptly, the customer is likely to become even more annoyed. You will have to work much harder to get a satisfactory solution. Even in your kitchens, you got a problem employee, deal with it, and hopefully you can squash it or remove that element from your staff. Okay. Sometimes we call that removing the cancer from your line staff. It's the best choice. Okay. Implement the decisions. Once you have made a decision, it must be implemented. With major decisions, this may involve detailed planning to ensure that all parts of the operation are informed on the part of the change. The kitchen may need a redesign and the new equipment. Employees may need additional training. You may have to plan for a short-term closure while the necessary changes are being made. You will have to inform your customers of the closure. Sometimes it benefits you. I remember when we first started to implement a decision, the kitchen got a complete overhaul. We used to have those grills that were not gas, that were charcoal and firewood grills. The kitchen was so hot, it was brutal. So anyways, they closed the kitchen down for a couple of months, and they redid the whole entire kitchen, brand new equipment. So we had to adjust it and how to clean it and take care and maintain this equipment because it was the old one that we had was not usable. Okay. Evaluate the outcome. whenever you have implemented a decision, you need to evaluate the results. The outcomes may give valuable advice about the decision-making process, the appropriateness of the choice, and the implementation process itself. This information will be useful in improving the company's response the next time a similar decision has to be made. So you got to think about the outcome too. What is the ultimate solution? Can the outcome be beneficial to you, the company? Working in silos. In today's world, there is a large focus on completing specific tasks as simply as cheaply as possible. And nowadays, moving forward, those they're going to be so true. The companies are going to try to cut back and reduce costs at all costs. Okay. In many instances, this can create a tunnel vision effect where employees only care about or focus on their own issues and or needs and forget to take into account the business as a whole. This type of workplace is something referred to as working as in silos. It can be detrimental to a business if it's not managed correctly. So, in working in silos, you can't. You gotta ask for help. Okay. Tips to fix this problem. Remember the big picture. Create clear processes for various teams. Process that are standardized, cross-training teams where process systems align. Set the regular meetings to discuss projects across all teams. Allow everyone to know that what is happening. Identify the possible input from their own teams. Create review team involving all teams to review the current process and review improvements, standardization. Most important, get manager, director buy-in. So when you have how to fix it, you got to run it by your peers. You got to have them to buy in it, because what if you have a piece of equipment that needs to be replaced? You got to tell them why and how come that equipment needs to be replaced. Otherwise, you're going to have the problem is not going to get fixed. I will.
Does that include like your investors too? I know you said manager and director, but like if you have investors, should you be like, hey guys, we're gonna have to close down unless we get the right equipment? Like, should you inform your investors too? Is what I'm asking.
You can, if they have a big stake in your operation and they're counting on you to give the revenue, especially if you're going to be closed for more than a week, maybe a month, 2 months, because you're not going to be able to pay them back. They might work with you on that one. But if you're going to be closed for a couple of days, no, just make sure that you abide by those dates and reopen on the third day, so you don't have the business suffer. One of the prime examples that we had at one of the properties that was at, the property was spread out. The kitchen and the restaurant and the bar were in one building. There was another building with the 13, 14 floors and about 100 and some rooms. And in that building, in the bottom, we had, of course, a housekeeping with a laundry department and another kitchen. And in that building, we also had a couple of ballrooms. So all the prep was being done in this kitchen, the main one, and transported to the new building down in the basement, where there was we used to call it a plating kitchen. It was basically a bake shop that would turn into somewhat of a staging kitchen. So anyways, the main kitchen had a dishwasher, had all the belts and whistles, and we used to transport all the food and equipment to this other building, but it wasn't a flat surface. The place was had some rolling hills, and to go from this building to the other building, you had to go down the parking lot and go down a little bit of hill and to go with a bump to go with the sidewalk and to the door to the back door. So the biggest concern that I had was when the servers were rolling those plastic racks with 100 and 200 glasses down the parking lot, maybe covered with plastic bag, and they would hit the bump.
Boom.
Timber, boom. 100 and some glasses broken. What if when the event was done, the dishwasher was bringing all the plates on the plastic push cart up the bump? Guess what happened? That cart tilt over and all the plates were broken. That was one of my concerns. The second one was those plates weighed a ton. So the food being transported back and forth. My dishwasher was in his 60s, almost 70s, little old man. What if he was pushing all the plates and all of a sudden he had a back injury? So to eliminate that problem was to buy the booster heater for the dish machine that was in that kitchen that was not being utilized, because we had a dish machine. To buy the booster heater to get that machine operating, the booster heater only cost maybe $2,400, maybe $1,400, whatever the price was. But even though it cost a lot of money to the company, it was on the budget. it costs a lot less and cheaper to replace the booster heater and have everything stationary, wash it, turn it, instead of having everything transported back and forth. Because A, loss of equipment, money. B, an employee getting hurt, a server, a dishwasher, maybe a customer walking to the parking lot and the whole cart goes stumbling down, and guess what? They're going to get hurt. The broken plate is going to jump out the pavement, it's going to hit in the face, it's going to get cut. So a lot of possibilities could happen there. So the buy-in for the my boss was, you know, it's going to cost X amount of money. I get it, I understand. But in the long term, you're going to save a lot more by preventing an injury, preventing breakage, and preventing replacing the equipment that is getting lost.
Chef, they probably save some labor dollars too. That trip along that sidewalk, that's a long, slow deal for that old dishwasher.
Yep. Yeah.
That's like the it's like the divot by the trash can in school in the parking lot.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Big old crater.
Mm-hmm.
By the way, our bosses know about it, and they addressed it with the landlords. They came back and told me they did. I haven't heard anything since then. I guess when we go back in, the first thing I do is drive over there and see if we still got a hole by the dumpster.
Yeah, they fixed it. Yeah. Yeah, so that was the issue. So you gotta have them buying in, because if you don't, and someone's gonna get hurt. And then before you know it, maybe you have have an issue with somebody get hurt, or again, people buying equipment. Okay, so have them buying into it. Okay. So, anyways, get with your bosses, have buy into it. Creative thinking. Your creative side is most useful in identifying new or unusual alternatives. Too often, you can get stuck in the pattern of thinking that has been successful in the past. You think of ways that you have handled similar problems in the past. Sometimes this is successful, but when you are faced with a new problem or when your solutions have failed, you may find it difficult to generate new ideas. So creative thinking, always thing. You're always learning. So keep your mind open and think about new ideas. How is that going to help you out? Okay. If you have a problem that seems to have no solution, try this idea to unfreeze your mind. Okay. Relax before trying to identify alternatives. Play what if games of the problem. For example, what if money was no object? What if we could organize a festival? What if we could change winter to summer? More ideas from other places and companies that trade magazines might be successful in undefined approaches used by companies. We as chefs in industry, we're always borrowing ideas. We're not reinventing the wheel. The wheel has already been set. Hollandaise has been made for decades, ages. Bechamel has been made, but we're always thinking how to turn it into a profit. So what was thinking of creative minds. If you do come to a mind block, step out, walk away, come back again. You guys are probably going to encounter this when you start working on your project. Walk away from it, come back in a day or two, okay? Give yourselves permission to think of ideas that seem foolish or that appear to break the rules. For example, new recipes may come about because someone bought new ways to combine foods. Sometimes these combinations appear to break the rules about complementary tastes or break boundaries between cuisines from different parts of the world. The results, such as thinking, include a combined bar or laundromat in the coffee places, internet access, and customers. So on this one, think about how to think of certain things that may seem foolish. Like, I'll give you an example. Back a while ago, we're big on one dinner menus. Every month, we were doing a one dinner menu, running out of ideas. So we were thinking about how to use, what is it called, Pop Rocks? You know, the candy? Mm-hmm. Right? Yep. Were you thinking about an idea how to use that, or how to use cotton candy and incorporate it into the menu? Okay, so cotton candy, okay, we all know how cotton candy is. We know how it is made. We know what it tastes like, what it looks like, what it feels like. So we were trying to figure out how to plug it into that menu. Not in dessert, in another dish. So we took the intermezzo, or the palate cleanser, and during the summertime, watermelon is in season, very sweet, very juicy, very moist. We took a seedless watermelon, took the hard cut cubes of it, have a big hot cast iron skillet with just a little bit touch of oil, and seared that watermelon on all sides. Okay, what happened? That searedness, that heat drew the natural sugars from the watermelon, caramelized them on the outside. We placed that in the middle of a plate and put the cotton candy on top of the cube seared watermelon. Mm-hmm. So the flavors and the texture that went with it were mind blowing. Now the Pop Rocks, we were doing little shots of beverages to go with the desserts. We were always trying to think of different beverages, and we came with one that you had to eat the Pop Rocks first and then take a shot. The shot had a Chambord, the raspberry liqueur in it. So when the Pop Rocks hit your mouth, they started to explode, and you took the shot, and it totally changed the whole feel of the palate, the mouth, in your experience. It wasn't like you trying to spit it out because it was different and weird. It was like, they're popping, and now they have this alcohol in my mouth with the raspberry Chambord, and it works in the palate. So some ideas seem foolish, but may work very well. Just gotta think of it.
Yeah.
Yes.
Like how they do with tequila, what they do, they lick the lime, take the shot, and lick the salt. No, lick the. How does it go?
Lick the salt off your hand and bite the
With
lime.
the salt shot and then the lemon or lime at the end.
Yeah, like that. That's what.
Like
that's
that. Yep.
Yeah.
In this case, you took a little teaspoon of the Pop Rocks and then took a shot of the Chambord with it was a beverage. It wasn't just like Chambord straight. So the flavors, it was effervescent, it was popping, and the flavors went very well combined. If I find the menu, I'll share with you guys, but I know we had the Pop Rocks in the menu mix. And again, it seemed foolish. Think about it. Cotton candy on $120 per person wine dinner, right? So always think of something different to make, okay? Use random inputs to generate new ideas. For example, walk through the local shopping mall, trying to find ways to apply everything you see to the problem. Turn the problem upside down. Can the problem be seen as an opportunity? For example, the road outside your restaurant that is now only means of accessing the parking lot is being closed due to a bicycle race. Perhaps you can see the bicycle race as an opportunity for businesses to rather than as a problem. So when the bicycle race, if it's shut down, why not sit outside with a little bit of tasting to your restaurant to be able to walk through? Just give them a little 1 ounce, 2 ounce of whatever you're selling. Maybe have a feature menu plastered on your front wall, your front window, advertising when you're going to have once the race is done. Hey, for the race, the racers or race families maybe come in, buy one, get one free. We're trying to boost some sales. Use that to your advantage, okay?
Those things will be realities. You'll sometimes be at the mercy of your landlord who says, this whole block or this whole corner is doing something such and such day. And it could really be a problem for your business. It could really cost you your sales dollars for a whole day. If you see it coming, you might be able to work around it. Like Chef Miguel said, you might be able to turn it into something that could create a sales opportunity, find some new customers, or at least not sacrifice all your sales dollars on that day if you think about it in advance and throw in with the idea.
So almost think about how to generate. Go ahead.
Somebody?
Now we do this as well too. Think about random things to generate ideas. I know a while ago last year, Joe was he was in my farm to table class in my regionals, and he already gone through molecular gastronomy. I mean, with 201. So we're in Italy, and I was telling my class, you got to think about doing tapas, deconstruct this menu. So he applied what he had learned. Again, different ideas. How to make cucumber foam and put it on top of the gazpacho in a shot glass, and how to take the leftover cucumber, juice them, and add aspic to it, make a little gel mold. So on a little Asian spoon, he had a little bit of gazpacho, and he had the cucumber aspic, little half ball on top of it. So he utilized two methods he had learned, experimenting on the gazpacho made into a tapas, but elevated the dish to a different levels. Not only that, when he was making that foam, if you buy an aerator, it's going to cost a lot of money. So on his mind, he's trying to substitute spending not a lot of money and have the same effects to make the foam. So he went to Walmart and buy one of those little fish aquarium air pumps to act like a aerator, and he made that foam. So you got to walk to the stores and think about what can you utilize to improvise and make a dish higher without hurting your pocket, if it can be done, okay? So there's a lot of ways to improvise and solve the problem, okay? Number 6, reasons yes, chef is still important. by Paul Sergeli. There is no denying that some have actually accurately pointed out problems with the chain of command structure. The hierarchy was initially designed to create an efficient model in the manufacturing operations. In essence, everyone's duties and objectives would stem from the top person's visions to directors in this case, is to meet manufacturing goals. While there are inherent challenges for this type of autocratic approach, there's also many advantages when applied to a reasonable manner, okay? And again, we'll touch back in Escoffier. He was the first one to have the development system of an order with the operation professional kitchen. His vision was to compartmentalize the tasks need to be done and performed. He brought his military experience onto the kitchen and made that brigade, okay? And more than 140 years later, we still have it in the system, okay? Responsibility and authority. I don't know why that was in there, but anyways. Escoffier knew that giving an individual the responsibility for outcomes without the authority to make decisions was a recipe for failure. Okay, so think about this. Escoffier knew that giving an individual the responsibility for outcomes without the authority to make decisions was a recipe for failure. To this end, contrary to the classic chain of command that he experienced in the French military, oversight positions were allowed to make many of the operational decisions in the departments as long as it supported the overall plan established by the executive chef. So it follows those guidelines, okay? Efficiency, considering the scope of work in the kitchen, okay, and the immediacy of decision-making, Escoffier saw that allowing this department heads to make operational decisions was a clear way to create a high level of efficiency. The largest scope decision-making would remain one of the shoulders of the executive chef. Employee morale. Any organization that does not engage a system of order, a destination of duties, and a clear reporting structure will create an environment of uncertainty and eventually chaos. It becomes important not to only build this organizational system, but also to insist that all work within the system abide by the order of the brigade. So employee morale. Have you guys ever watched the movie, The Office Space?
Been a long time, but I've seen that.
Yeah, I've seen it.
Yeah, I've seen it.
You guys that have
Stapler.
watched it, you guys remember in that scene, what's the main character's name?
Peter, I think.
There's a, sorry guys.
I think his name's Peter.
Peter, right? So,
Yeah, and his boss, Bill Lumberg.
sorry, my dog maybe saw a squirrel in the front. Anyways, Peter, let's go with Peter, right? So remember when the corporate office sent the two guys, Bob and Bob?
Yeah.
To analyze each employee and to see their productivity?
So what would you say it is you do here?
Right, and what did Peter say? Well, when he came in with flip-flops, jeans, and a t-shirt, and he just sat in front of them, slouched, right?
Yeah.
He said there's no incentive for him to do his job. Out of the 8 hours, he was maybe doing 30 minutes of work. He had too many bosses telling him what to do. Right?
Yep.
It's true. So employee morale, you got to give employee morale day in, day out. Now, how will you do that, employee morale? Well, there's different ways you can do so. I'm just going to share my experiences with you guys. You know, first, given the right tools, the right communication, the right equipment, the right support and help, and the right product, okay? The right equipment, meaning do they have the saute pans? Do they have the whisks? Do they have the right cutting boards, okay? I walked into a kitchen a while ago that everybody was wearing t-shirts and jeans and baseball caps facing backwards, no floor mats. The equipment with the smallwares were just non-existent. So little by little, started building, getting them new cutting boards, new omelet pans, new saute pans. The last part to the puzzle, got them all uniforms. Make sure that everybody was in the same uniforms. Back then was the houndstooth black and white checker pants. So everybody got away from wearing jeans. I got them everybody a chef coat. They all was wearing the chef's hat and they all had their aprons, okay? It made him feel good. It made him feel valuable. at the same time, we were instituting new guidelines of uniform policies. Okay, it made me feel really appreciated that they had the right uniform, they had the right equipment, that somebody was giving them the, working, fighting for them, having the right cutting boards. And that, to go further, this was back in the late early 2000. Every monthly meeting that we had, I used to go to Circuit City, who's no longer in business now. And before the iPods and iPhones became available, I used to buy little CD boom boxes and raffle them out and give them to my employees. Not only that, I would get in contact with my produce purveyors and say, hey, Joe, I'm holding a employee meeting this month on this date. Can your company donate a fruit basket? Because they have fruit baskets. Can you donate 1 or 2 for this date? We were dropping X amount of dollars on his lap, on his business, when we were buying from him. So a fruit basket was not going to cost him anything, keeping the loyalty. So he said, yeah, sure, no problem. He would give me all the fruit baskets that I needed. Not only that, with Cisco, Cisco Benikit, they also have a lot of knickknacks, pens, notepads, little stretch balls, hats, all kinds of goody things. I used to call him and say, my sales rep, hey, do you have any of those amenities, any sales leftovers you want to get rid of? I can use it for my employee meeting. So when I would bring them in, I would order pizza from the local pizza place. Then we'll have snacks, we have drinks, we'll carry for a meeting, and then we'll start having fun raffling some of these items to boost employee morale. We talk about the business coming up ahead. We talk about what's going on, if it's going to be slow, if it's going to be busy. Great job one day. So this is what we're looking at. This is some of the deficiencies I need to know. And I will leave the floor open for them to ask questions or for them to address their concerns. And sometimes it will be like, one of those sessions that they will talk about the servers or the banquet servers and this and that, and we'll say, hey, listen, we try to work as a team. I know there's some issues here. We're going to fix them. We're going to work with this manager. And so I would hear them out, and I will tell them, we're going to work on this. And sure enough, I will go write my notes, go through the banquet manager, have a meeting with them, and explain the issues that were raised. But employee morale, raise the employee morale, take care of them, make sure that they have the right tools, the right equipment, even sometimes the right uniform. And it does help a lot. Get with your sales rep, tell them, hey, what do you have? Can you go ahead and donate for my employee meeting? So you got to boost the morale, because if you don't, they don't want to work for you. They want to call in sick. They want to come in late. They're not going to come in with the proper uniform. They're going to come in disheveled, or So there's a lot of ways you can improve that. That was one of the ways. Next one is working side by side with them, day in and out in the trenches, no matter what, earning the respect. Because if you don't, man, when you start delegating those duties, hey, can you do this or do this for me? You can just like, I'm busy. I ain't got no time for that, right? But if you work with them and earn the respect, you can ask them, hey, John, can you take care of this for me? Sure, Chef, no problem. What do you want me to do when I'm done with it? They even go the step further to ask you what can be done afterwards. So you got to build the morale. Okay. If this sounds like a military approach, that's because it is. Escoffier uses time as a chef in the French military to design the brigade. He saw how this type of hierarchy allowed the businesses on the battlefield to proceed with some level of confidence. So how did this apply to today's modern kitchen, and why it's still important? Well, individuals respond very well to an orderly, efficient, and consistent system, and create the opportunity to share ideas in a receptive environment. Today's employee may respond positive to a system of order, but unless he or she sees an opportunity to provide feedback to a person with an open mind, the employee will eventually seek the opportunity elsewhere, will become less efficient and more antagonistic to the work in front of them. Mm-hmm. So retention. Why is retention important, guys? Why is this important?
Retention? As far as like retaining information, or like retaining your employees?
Retaining employees. Why do you want to retain them?
It costs money and time to train people. And from what I was even told in the military is letting people go too early, 2 years into a 4 or 5 year contract due to something that was completely avoidable. You lose a lot of experience, I guess, plain and simple.
You lose your expertise that you have. They came in, they weren't perfect at first, they got better, that cost money to train them. Now they're good. Now is not the time to let them out the door.
It also takes a lot of time to train somebody over and over again, having to train new people.
So imagine, look at all the time that restaurant last night, was it last night or was it the night before, Amy's? I mean, if they went through 100 people in a year or whatever it was, and there's this little tiny restaurant, they didn't spend any time, and none of that time was spent with a fully up to snuff experienced staff. Their whole time in business was spent in chaos with a bunch of people who don't know what's going on because they didn't train them, and because they're always, everybody's new all the time.
Mm-hmm.
No expertise.
This also builds a bad reputation as well.
Yeah.
Big time.
It's expensive. Think about dollars, because in this business, again, we're all about money, right? Think of how much it costs to train one employee. First, you got to put an ad on internet, word of mouth. You're going to spend maybe 30 minutes of your time sitting down. And remember, you're getting paid, even though your salary, you're still getting paid by the hour. So you're going to spend 30 minutes looking at those resumes. You're going to spend another 5-10 minutes making that phone call, that contact to bring him in. You're going to spend maybe 30 minutes to an hour interviewing that person, he or she in person. Now you're going to spend.
You're going to pay for background checks too, aren't you, Chef? Yeah. And you're going to get on. You're going to spend some time ordering the background checks and checking references, or paying someone to do it.
Yeah.
Sorry to interrupt, Chef. Yeah.
No. Yeah. It's all those processes going to hiring one individual. Now you're going to bring him in for a mystery basket. Now you got to have product available for he or she to do a mystery basket. Now you got to spend about 4 or 6 hours of your time gathering that product, setting at your station, and then the day of, maybe spend 4 hours with him or she explaining the process of the mystery basket. Now you got to pull your boss to the front dining room so they can spend time criticizing that food. Now you got to go back, close, and send him on his way, and then go back and think about whether you want to hire him or not. Now comes in, you hired that person. Now you got to bring him on boarding. Onboarding sometimes takes 8 hours or 1 day to bring him on boarding. Through HR, they got to sign all the legal documents, the application, and so forth, so on. And then now you got to train them. You got to spend time out of your daily routine to train that individual. So it keeps on racking up. Okay, it keeps on racking up. Now you spend X amount of time and money on him or she, to train him and get him up and running. And then you're still training because they're brand new to your, they might know how to cook, but they're not brand new to you. They don't know your system. So you got to train them to your system. Maybe take about a week, 2 weeks to finally train, maybe a month so they can finally get it. 6 months into it, they decide to quit. Now you're stuck with the uniform bill that you had to buy their jackets, embroidered or not, the hats or pants, and the aprons and whatever else you want to buy for them. And the uniforms not cheap; they're expensive. You want to buy them a set of 3 or 4, they're going to cost you in a couple of $100s for their uniform. Now you're out of money of training, hiring, advertising, uniform, and all the time that you spent in one individual. There is an analysis of how much money it takes to train, and it's in the millions of dollars in this industry, millions of dollars a year to train somebody to stay with you. So retention is huge, and you got to retain those employees, because if you don't, you're going to have a high turnover, and there's going to be a never-ending expense. The more you bring in, the more you got to spend. Uniform, shoes, policies, signatures, documents. It's a vicious cycle.
Yeah, I was told a long time ago from a major that was in intelligence in the Air Force. He said, looking at how much the military spends every year, what do they spend the most on? And it wasn't fuel, it wasn't ammunition or jets or Humvees or anything. It was paychecks. That was, so the people, the training, the individual person, that's the whole that's what costs more than anything.
Yeah.
So you gotta retain. So again, bottom line is about dollars, about money. You can't lose them. Okay. So retention. Okay. Anyways, because if they're going to look for the job, you're going to be out of that employee, especially if you got breakfast cooks on your line. Breakfast cooks is a different kind of breed. If you have them, take care of them, because ain't nobody in the right mind is going to get up at 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning to be at your restaurant, your kitchen, 5 o'clock, hashing out hash browns, eggs over easy, and then making sure that they have a smooth running operation with no complaints back. If you have them, take care of them, because man, they're hard to come by. Okay. So boosting employee morale, big one. Okay. Yes, Chef, it's more than just a note, a role responsive directive. Yes, Chef helps to create a pride, respect for position, and a commitment to common goal. It is a reflection of the order and unity that allows the kitchen to perform at the highest level and produce exceptional dining experience for guests. Okay, pride. The title chef is earned over many years of incredible hard work. It requires a focus on knowing a great deal about food, cooking, and food presentation. It also requires a skill set that includes operational management, menu planning, human resources, finance, marketing system efficiency. When we respond to yes, chef, we're paying homage to the skills necessary to hold that title. Now, some of you guys, when you go out in the field, you guys are going to be chefs. I don't expect you guys to be line cooks or dishwashers. You shoot for the stars. Don't settle for less, because you have this knowledge, you have this experience, and for you guys to settle in as a dishwasher or a line cook, no. You guys are far more valuable to be, accept a job in that position. Now, some of you guys are going to maybe have a sous chef job, junior sous chef, banquet sous chef, assistant sous chef, some kind of chef position. Okay, so when you go in there with humility. Don't go in there with a chip on your shoulder, think that you know everything that the world has to offer, and you're encyclopedia. Go in there with, yes, I'm a chef, but I don't know everything, so I'm going to work here as hard as I can, learn as much as I can, so I can move forward up the chain. So the next step, you go to the next place that you go, you can't be that senior sous chef, that banquet, that pastry chef. Okay, but again, don't go in there settling for less than what is owed to you guys. Some of you guys may start at a line cook, maybe a lead line cook. Maybe that's okay, but don't stay there for a long time. Okay, when I was going to school, and I was with my classmates, they were having such a chip on their shoulder right before graduation that we're making comments. So I'm never going to chop an onion or make stock. I'm like, dude, this is what we are. This is who we are.
I'm going to get out of school and I don't have to chop onions and make stock anymore.
I'm like, yeah. Yeah, there were huge, big ego heads. I'm like, no, man, it doesn't matter if you're a chef or not. Cooking.
I think the instructors were failing them.
Cooking is our life. Yeah, they were saying those comments. When I came out of school, I wasn't. I didn't have all this knowledge that I have now. So when I started as a sous chef, but I already have about 11 years in my belt. So I was able to get that first step, and somebody gave me the opportunity. So if somebody offers you the opportunity, take it, but also let them know that, hey, you're there to learn. That you're there for them to take you under their wing and train you, okay? So that's what we're shooting for. So when you guys go out there, shoot for the stars, man. Don't settle for less, okay? Hopefully you'll be a bit more prepared than your predecessors or maybe somebody that left in that spot, so you can take a better hold of the team and lead the team higher, okay? Respect, similar to pride by responding, yes, chef. We are accepting that individual holding the title deserves our respect. This applies even if we do not always agree with the chef. We don't particularly care for them. In this moment, when we say yes, chef, we are saying, I respect you as a person in charge. Without this level of respect, the kitchen will quickly fall into a black hole of confusion and chaos. So when you guys go out there, you guys become a chef, you guys have earned that title. You guys have earned that respect, okay? Don't say, hey, you, homie, or hey, how you doing? No, he's got a, doctor, okay? Common goal, every day in the kitchen is filled with a need to hang in order while staying true to the food philosophy of the operation and the core staff. The common goal is to always produce exceptional food, always exceed the expectation of the guests, build a sense of pride among cooks and service staff for the experience, that they build and realize a profit that allows the restaurant to sustain itself. Yes, chef means that we are together in the pursuit of those goals and are willing and able to follow the directives of the chef who has the big picture in mind. Because sometimes one of these days you are going to be in those shoes. Okay. Finally, order will only have staying power if you hire the right individuals to be part of the kitchen system. The team, the right individuals will always have a strong cooking skills, positive attitudes, and real desire to pursue this job as a career. This means that they will have a need to interact with chef, other observations and ideas, see some of their ideas enacted, and feel a part of the overall direction that the chef believes in. Yes, chef is important, but must include this level of involvement if it's to carry the operation to the future. Okay. Any thoughts so far, guys?
No, chef.
Well, I'll offer a thought if nobody's going to talk, because I think this stuff should be hitting you right between the eyes right now.
Yeah,
I felt really lucky to get with a restaurant company that I was with about 3 years, and I was off doing something else for a while, and later I was back with them again for about 2 more years. And in that place, even when you were a young cook, that maybe you cooked pretty well on the line, but you weren't necessarily a decision maker yet or anything, but they always gave you something to bite off and chew on. Like when you're a line cook, after a few weeks, they would schedule you. You knew it was coming, but they would schedule you to be crew chief one evening. You watch the crew chief. You got to look at the job description and the crew chief setup book and the crew chief manual, and you kind of knew what the job was, and they'd pop you in there for maybe a half an hour on the slow part of the evening. You just kind of work that function. Read the ticket, call it out, check on stuff, coordinate it, pull it together, put it in the window, make sure it's all good. And then after a little while of that, one night, they put you on a Sunday night with one assistant, a slow night, and then you were the crew chief, and you're responsible for the labor dollars and the food going out and cleaning up and closing properly and all that stuff. And they always would give you more. They never let you sit too many weeks in a row without having some new challenges. Kitchen manager would take you into the kitchen on inventory day, and you'd help her count. This was before Excel spreadsheets. You have to sit there and go through a whole long list of stuff and calculate the amounts of stuff on hand. How much is the pound price? How many pounds do we have? Extend it all. And they would let you make up new specials if they fit the style of the restaurant. And you'd have to cook it up and show the manager what it was going to cost to produce it. Have the manager taste it. The manager could say, well, I think we can do that, but this is too spicy or whatever. And there was so much growth in that place that blew my mind. It's like kind of a place you could go to become a chef. I never knew it at the time, but a little later on, I could see how great their training and teaching program was. And I stayed with them quite a few years, and I even came back later. If you got a program like that, you can keep good people and they'll become great people. You don't have a program like that, you'll be lucky to have any good people.
Chef?
Go ahead.
Go ahead. Chef, what I was going to say is they do that in the military. Like, you know, as you're going say you're in a position, you have to learn, you know, the person above you and the person below you's job. And then what they do is, like, you know, when they feel that you need to get a shot at trying something or whatever, they pull you up and say, hey, why don't you do this for a little bit? And this is your project. You take care of it. And then come see me at the end of the day, and then we'll talk about it and see what you could have done better or what you couldn't have done, what was worse or whatever. So it's kind of similar.
Yeah, it's awesome. You know, so Escoffier was smart to apply his military experience to organizing and getting jobs done by people, don't you think? So that's it. I don't want to hold this up too long, but
I got a question about it. So like before Escoffier was like it just a bunch of chickens with their head running around, nobody had any real power, everybody had their own opinion, or was it like?
I think there was maybe here and there a talented chef that kind of had some sense of organization and they'd get it done. And other chefs just never had any clue until Escoffier pointed out to the bigger industry that you could have order if you followed a plan like that. Chef, don't you agree? Probably there was a lot of kitchens that were like chaotic mess at times. Probably arguments and disarray and things going wrong, things getting forgotten. Don't you think, Chef?
Yeah. A lot of things are forgotten. They've been forgotten about it. And you know, to go back and yes, it was a zoo back then. Nobody had any authority. They were just doing their own thing. So when you brought the system in it, he brought structure to the structures of the kitchens, and everybody knew their spot and their place, and the kitchens ran a lot more smoother. Also, he brought in the uniform policy as well too, because he wanted to make sure that there was order in the kitchen, not only the brigade, but order professionalism. He always he fought too for benefits for the cooks of his staff because nobody had any benefits. Somebody would get sick, you know, good luck. So
he helped take care of their health. He helped to set up programs for them to save money for retirement. This is 150 years ago. I think that's pretty impressive.
Yeah.
That's all I got to say about it.
So what do you guys think so far about the delegating and leadership styles?
I just feel that with the leadership roles, it's all about the individual who and how they feel that they need to run their kitchen, basically. I mean, some, like I said, it's kind of more of what they grew up to be, like, you know, how they were raised and everything. I feel that some of that is instilled in them, and I've seen it in the military. I mean, there's people that are in charge, and they're like, "Oh, you're going to do it this way, and that's it." And they're going to use the fear method because that's the way they know how to make everything efficient. And then there's the other ones that, you know, that really want to get down and gritty and do like the carrot method, you know, and try to put something in front of somebody to reward them, to maybe even get them a promotion or something of that nature. Delegating, I'm still going to stick to the way that I delegate because I feel that it works. It's worked for me in the past, and I'm pretty sure that I'll be open to suggestions and stuff like that. And that's one thing as a delegator, you have to take in consideration of your staff and how your staff is, because I may not have the best experience on making mashed potatoes, but one of my staff members might have been doing it at another restaurant for 13 years and knows it way better than I can. So I'm going to take his advice on it. I'm not just going to sit there and say it's my way or the highway.
Danny, it's the same thing with delegating. It's the same thing with organizing. You can always learn from somebody. Yep.
Exactly, Chef.
All right, Chef, what else?
Anyone else? Because remember, guys, you guys are going to be in the chef's shoes one of those days. So you're going to come across all this we just talked about, delegating to the right individual, how you're going to trust to make sure that they get the job done right, how you're going to follow through that is done correctly, and how you're going to motivate your staff. So all this, you guys are going to be coming across these issues, okay? Even in the kitchen, when we go back to the Grand Kitchen, you're going to be in teams of 4. There's always going to be somebody in that team that's going to be the leader, delegating those duties. Even though somebody might come in, I want to do this recipe. Well, really, are they really that skilled to make the recipe? Maybe you're going to trust them. Okay, you make the recipe, but this is, you know, we got a 9:30 to go ahead and produce those menus, make sure they're on it, and make sure that, you know, motivation is still going within your teams. Hey guys, it's sort of 7 o'clock. Let's go. We got to get it cut up. It's our tablespoons, dishes being cut up. So act like if you were the chef delegator in your team in the classes. You know, don't just go in there think with the mentality, I'm going to cook this recipe. Expand on this knowledge that you get now and apply it when you guys go back in. Okay. Some of your classmates may agree upon it. Some of them may not. Some of them are going to refuse. They're going to fight you back. But again, how do you handle those issues in the kitchen? Because you're going to be, again, and it's going to happen. You're going to be facing with this certain concerns and issues that you're going to have to, you know, deal with them and maybe ask for help. Okay. So think about what we just talked about. How are you going to use those tools to your advantage and be more successful?
Yeah.
I think it's more of a psychological battle and talking, just knowing how to talk to your people around you. I mean, if I'm going to be in charge, or say that I'm back in school and we're working as a team, I'm going to make it into a team building exercise and be like, hey, this is all for us. We're all trying to make the great grade, not a C or a D. So let's work really hard on trying to get all this done and try to basically watch each other's backs on everything that we do.
Be the motivator, be the delegator, follow through, follow back. Be the cheerleader.
Yes, chef. That's correct.
Right?
Does anybody in this room think that it could be a little bit tricky the first time you're on the job as a sous chef and you've never worked in that place before, and now you're the sous chef, and there could be one or two persons in there that thought they should have been the sous chef, and they know their way around the place, and you don't really?
Yeah, that's gonna be a lot of trouble.
You better have some damn game, and an important part of the game is to have that humility Chef Miguel was talking about. A guy taught me that the first thing is you step in there and you just make good, strong energy, and you kind of keep your head low, and you're not mean, you're not pushy. You just show that you can and that you will. And then the next thing is you're the bit of the energizer. You're the one that can rev up and be a bit of a cheerleader and stuff like that. Maybe a couple weeks later, you're starting to say a little bit more about, well, this needs to happen now. Let's make sure, so you don't just walk in there first day with a couple of 6-shooters on your belt, I'm the new sheriff around here. Yeah, well, we don't like it. Right? If you're the big shot with all the power, you can kind of come in how you want, but you still want to be smart and kind and wise with it. But if you're the newbie, you don't want to come in, I think Chef Miguel described like a chip on your shoulder. Yeah, there's a lot of ways folks can sabotage you. And some of them will choose to do that if you bring a ugly presence or an ugly attitude into it. You can't afford it. It's just not smart.
That's why you treat them like family.
Treat them good.
And ask us questions, guys, because, like I said, this is going to be true life for you guys when you guys go in the industry in the field. You guys are going to be facing with these challenges. And, we have gone through all kinds of roller coaster of emotions in different supervisory roles, and we have faced different kinds of challenges. My first sous chef job position back in '98, I was walked all over because I'm still kind of a nice guy, but I wasn't an a-hole, so I was finding a hard time how to delegate and follow through. Okay, my mindset is like, I can't be mean to this employee, but I wasn't thinking like a manager. I was thinking more of we're all equal, and I'm not just a sous chef. I'm a line cook like he is. So my first gig, man, I was like, no respect at all.
So what you're saying, Chef, is you have to find that happy medium between being an asshole and being, I guess you could say, a friend, for lack of a better term.
Right. So the best way that I can describe it is, you walk into a place, you take over it, you work with them side by side, earn the respect, but on the same note, you're not their buddies, you're not their friends. You got to separate those two, okay? Because remember, you are getting paid to do a certain job. They're getting paid to do a certain job. You might hang out after work, get a couple of beers and something at the bar, but still, you're not your crimiest, because at the end of the day, they go home, you go home. When you come back the next day, you have different roles to fill. You got different answers to answer when they ask you questions. The commodities, it's a fine line of crossing that line. So you got to be motivational. You got to be inspiring. You got to be a teacher, mentor. But in the same sense, you got to earn the respect and work with them side by side equally. So it's a fine line. You're gonna have to.
I think you're right, Chef. I think it's pretty hard to say that it's cool to be people's friends when you're the supervisor. I mean, some people think that's maybe one approach. It can work sometimes, but there's problems with it. One person doesn't really drink beer, and one person does, and you develop a habit of having a couple beers a couple times a week with someone. The next thing you know, someone thinks that you've got a favorite.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe you do. You got confronted with that. I'm not sure how you could, I'm not sure how you really defend what you're doing. And the next thing you know, that person you're drinking beer with that you think is all cool, and you're so relieved that they're supportive of you, and man, they're being nice to me, so I'm going to succeed as a supervisor. It's going to be a smooth road. Well, what if they kind of turn sideways and become a little bit untrustworthy on you, or What if you're in the habit of like getting drunk with them and stuff like that, or they are? It's just socializing too much and too closely with folks that you supervise is not recommended by any smart managing textbooks or by any smart managers. It's not done very much. A little bit, yeah, okay, you know, but like the company party as an example, I've seen people, competent, strong, decent, smart chef instructors at a big time holiday party, or a big time celebrity chef is there or somebody like that, and really get way, way out of control drunk and just say stupid, terrible stuff that makes them look ridiculous. And I think I'm so glad it wasn't me. I'm so glad I limited my alcohol consumption, right? It's just,
I don't know if you guys saw it, but Austin just commented and said, can't you earn respect by keeping your head low and focusing on the tasks?
That's an important part of it, Austin. That's keeping your head low and being smart and being task-oriented, focusing on it.
So the best way
that makes a lot of respect.
The best way to go about it, keep your professionalism up, okay? Keep your professionalism up. Don't let your guard down, because even who here smokes? Who pollutes the air? Who are my smokers in this class? Anybody?
James.
Okay. So in the kitchens, you know, if the chef smokes, he goes out to the back dock and lights up a smoke, right?
Don't throw me under the bus like that. I don't do that.
Right? A smoke, right? Here comes the line cooks behind him, gonna go get a smoke too. So they're out there smoking, right? And the guy that does the smoke, he's still up in the kitchen. He's still there busting his butt. So when they shoot the breeze, saying what happened this weekend, you watch this movie, blah, blah, blah. What do you think about this dish? They become somewhat of a friendship, smoking friendships. Now they go back in the kitchen, and the chef is not going to delegate. Maybe he's not going to delegate to the guy that he smoked, the guy or girl that he was smoking with, and maybe he's going to delegate to the guy that wasn't smoking. Well, guess what? The one that doesn't smoke, he's going to start to retaliate and feel that he's not, that they're picking someone else's favoritism. Okay, so you got to watch the fine balance between hanging out even at work.
I have a not like playing devil's advocate to that, chef, right? So I smoke, right? I mean, sure, we've all seen me smoking on camera once or twice. So, but here's the thing, right? You know how like people who don't smoke, they'll usually get that 30-minute dinner break or some kind of break in between, right?
Uh-huh.
When I work, that we'll say that 10 minutes or whatever that I'm out there, if I only ever go out maybe possibly 3 times, that's my whole 30-minute break.
Mm-hmm.
You know? So that's just my argument on that philosophy. If you're still getting your 30-minute break, but I'm only taking 10 minutes of mine at a time, when it's slow, mind you, I'm not going to go out there if everybody's getting their butt kicked. What's the difference in that respect, you know?
No, there's no difference. It's when the chef's hanging out with you, smoking the cigarette when you guys are together, because in perception, the other line staff is going to think about that you're not his favorite or you're somebody else's favorite. It's going to, and again, it happens all the time. So you got to keep, if you're going to smoke, go smoke separate. Don't smoke with the chef. Don't smoke with the managers. You know, have a separate section. If you're a manager, don't hang out with your staff. Okay. The holiday party is different. It's at work. It's you're on the company grounds. So you still got to behave, but you can't, if you want to go hang out, then that's where some issue starts happening, because then you go back to work and you're going to find it harder to delegate or tell them what to do, because they're going to look at you like, oh man, I can get away with this. He's my buddy, he's my friend, or she's my friend, or, whatever. So they're not going to do what is expected of them to do. And that's where you're going to run into problems. So the better yet not to get to that point is to keep your professionalism up at all times. Professionalism, all about work, dedication, all about the food, systems, and so forth, so on. If you want to shoot the breeze about the weekend, go ahead, shoot the breeze and talk about it, but don't get too involved. Keep that fine line between. So that's when we have, a hard time when we first get our first gig, because, we can't separate both of them.
Yeah, some people will still keep a very high level of professionalism and respect and all that, even though they've socialized a little bit with the boss and things like that. The problem could be that someone else might not after they socialize with the boss, and still you got that other issue of people's perceptions. It's just wise. It's just good to be smart and politically smart in the workplace, even when you're working your way up from the hourly point. You know,
treat them all the same.
Yeah.
With respect, first and foremost. Okay. Any thoughts, comments, questions, concerns?
Well, say I've gone out and had a smoke with, a few chefs that I've worked with, but, it was more or less like I'm asking them about my performance. I'm saying is, if I'm doing good or, there's something you see that I could do better with, and then vice versa, and I've gone on smoke breaks, another employee comes in and we'll have a conversation, but it's always been just about work. It's never really personal stuff.
Well, that's different. That's different. You can have those conversations. In the past, I've had conversations. When somebody has an issue, they come to the office. They ask them what's going on, and then we'll start talking. But it's not that we should debrief about this weekend, the movies, and so forth, so on. It's about strictly what is bothering them, and then we go back to the kitchen, and it's all about what's at hand. Okay.
Right.
Just being socially smart about it. I mean, it's simple. We don't have to overcomplicate it. Just recognize that too much social or careless social can be cause a little diceiness,
I always kept that separate. Like work is work, and what I do at home is, my business. And I never really gone out and had the beers, maybe once or twice, but it's always I do my thing when I'm not at work. It's my time.
Right.
I think it's good to keep that separation like that.
Well, guys, homework. I did send you a link earlier today about post-coronavirus 19. What to expect coming up. And again, it's just an exercise to give you guys thoughts. Who I didn't hear from? I didn't hear from, of course, Austin, still there. Shaheem, I didn't hear from Shaheem. The guys that did not send your responses, please respond tomorrow. Let me know your thoughts about that. Who else didn't hear from you guys yesterday?
I still got to turn my stuff in. I just wasn't sure. I just watched the video.
Okay. Yeah, the video goes in hand with the news clip and link that I sent you guys.
Okay. I saw one today that I started reading on.
Yes, sir.
And I know, going back after reading all your comments, Ms. Hannah was the one that hit every single bullet points, and that's what kind of was looking for. Very detailed about, the thoughts behind it. Even though you guys had a good argument and good thoughts about your opinions about the observations, the reading, that's what I was looking for. So go into it tonight or tomorrow, read it, and let me know what you guys thoughts are, because this is going to impact when we go back into the industry and how it's going to affect us. And think about delegations, think about cost controls, think about how much it's going to cost, think about dollars, think about staffing. Everything goes hand in hand. Everything ties in. So read it, give me your thoughts, send it back, and I would love to hear from all of you guys, not just the ones that are who always get responses. Awesome, keep on doing it though. Keep on responding back, but I want to hear from everybody.
Jeff, I got some shared on email. I got some good comments, good feedback from Yossi. Got some good feedback from, let's see, got some from James, got some from Mercedes.
Yeah.
I think you guys check your emails. You'll see some response from me on that. And I'm still looking for whatever else. And I also haven't seen who might have shared too. These ones came directly on an email there, so I was able to see them real easily. And I want to check after class too about any that are shared on the drive as well. So appreciate the feedback on that article from folks that did it. And I think that's, keep on doing that, please.
Yossi, Hannah, Cameron, Daniel Bolton, James, Mercedes, who else in it? What else? Yeah, so keep on sending your responses. Didn't hear from Shaheem, didn't hear from Austin. Those who I did not hear from, I'm gonna tell you guys tomorrow, give you guys any thoughts. Ms. Mallory, Ms. Caitlin, Aubrey, who else? Raceling, I didn't get yours right. Yeah, so read all about it, guys, because again, the stuff that I send you guys is all for a purpose. I don't just send you stuff to, bore you, take a look at it and delete or, go off. This is stuff that we should be looking into going to the future into this industry, because nothing will ever be the same. We have to adapt, evolve, and accept as we go.
Yes, sir.
Yes,
Got
sir.
it? Questions, thoughts, comments, concerns?
Nope.
All right, we're gonna hang out 5 minutes. You guys have any questions? Other than that, we'll see you guys tomorrow. Same bad time, same bad channel.
All right. Y'all have a great night.
Bye.